to do that all natural again.
Okay, right. Welcome to the first official, unofficial Outlawed Picks podcast.
Outlawed.
The Outlawed Picks podcast. The unofficial, official.
But officially
unofficial.
outlawed.
Officially outlawed. Unofficial to everything else. Official to being outlawed.
It's been a couple of weeks.
It has been a couple of weeks.
It has been a couple of weeks.
We
have endeavoured to adapt and overcome.
Absolutely, as we always do.
Yeah.
I feel liberated. I feel free. I feel exhilarated. I should have gotten fired a long time ago.
Amazing.
So the Outlawed Picks podcast.
Yeah, so we turned the ads back on, didn't we?
We did.
Because we were sponsorless last week.
Sorry for that. We won't do it again.
Couple of shows, and we recognise that it's pretty annoying when you're watching stuff and the ads come through every 5 minutes. So we're not going to do that again. And in the same thread...
I can't believe you went the same joke again. We just tried to record this. We were literally rolling for about 60 seconds, and then it said the card was full.
It was such a good joke.
It was such a good
joke.
joke.
Bill Burr would have done it. Much better we would have done it.
Yeah, but Bill Burr would have carried it off the second time around. Your delivery was off.
Yeah, so look, we want to turn the ads off, and to do that, we have been speaking to a couple of sponsors that are going to support us and allow us to bring as much content as we can on the channel to the channel for free, because we don't want to put it behind a paywall, do we? We want to get it out there, and we want to do as much as we can for the guys that, you know, subscribe to us, follow us, and love mixed martial arts. So, yeah, with that in mind, the first guys that have come to the table that want to support us is unboundmerino.com. So they have sent us through these beautiful merino t-shirts and hoodies, and they do socks and hats and all sorts of stuff, don't they? Sweatshirts. They're a very, very cool company. They
good for lockdown, because you can wear the same item of clothing for like a week in a row.
And over again.
And it just, I wore it on the boat. It was amazing stuff, and it's like, it doesn't smell, it doesn't get dirty. It's like, you know, it's like good for your skin and stuff.
They're very cool, very comfy, aren't they?
Yeah,
I mean,
I like it.
Do you want to sort of tell the boat story a little bit? Because, I mean, we're at 10,000 new subscribers a month. Not everyone's going to have read Part Reptile, are they?
No.
So maybe there's
it's way out of date now anyway.
Yeah,
I need to update it all.
A lot's happened since then.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to do that. I'm going to read through one chapter at a time and just kind of elaborate on it anyway. But, well, I mean, the boat race was 28 days at sea, and I went from London to Rio. And yeah, I had like 4 weeks of training for it and all that. It was a pretty intense experience. I'll go into it more when I go through the chapters of the book. But merino wool was something that we used on the boat because it's just so hard wearing. It doesn't smell, and obviously when you're at sea for 28 days, I mean, I washed a couple of times in seawater, but you know, you're not able to like wash your clothes and stuff. So it was just really, really good quality stuff. And when they reached out,
yeah, it's a natural fit. So look, we're gonna try and find some sponsors, but it's really important to us we pair with sponsors that are authentic to us, isn't it? We don't want to just sort of splash anyone on the channel. Like, if we believe in it and we're happy to promote it and we genuinely do use it, then, you know, I think it'd be a good fit for us, wouldn't it? Yeah.
I have a new action figure. Anasau, I'll give these guys a shout out as well. They sent me a couple of these figurines the other day. He's been hanging out outside while it's been snowing, but now he's come indoors. I put him on the other side of the screen to the Space Marine though, because they're notoriously a bit dangerous. I've got Dan Henderson keeping tabs on him. Well, let's get into some fighting stuff, shall we?
Yeah. Let's
talk about last weekend's card. I reckon we'll just
madness. Wasn't it?
We'll roll it into one show. We did 2 separate shows last week because obviously there was so much to talk about with 259. But we'll roll it into one. Obviously, if you prefer 2 separate shows, let us know. But we've got something else that's coming in place of that other show. The
couple of things
post,
coming up.
Yeah, couple of things coming up. Yeah, couple of new shows coming up. We've got UFC 260. Watch out for that. We'll be doing. We'll be streaming live alongside the fights. We've had a lot of requests for that, so we will be doing that. And then we've got a new post-event, entirely combat sports show coming up very soon, which will be coming to the channel. So all of our
efforts. It'll be fun to cover everything, won't it? Like, it's just a bit of everything that's going on.
We watch everything, don't we? It's always been a bit, you know.
The whole space.
We're no longer restricted to the organisation, so we can continue.
Which we'll still cover, but we'll cover everything else, you know.
Cover the shit out of it. Right.
Yeah, wow, what a crazy card, man.
16 seconds into the card, we had a counter to the calf kick straight away.
Yeah, there you go.
Hashtag calf
evolution's
kick
happening already.
Love it. I love it.
It's happening.
And I mean, that is the solution, isn't it? It's one of the reasons why, it's one of the reasons why you've got to get your head off the centre line when you're throwing kicks. And unfortunately for the calf kick, you have to be so close to your opponent when you're throwing it that you are in punching range.
But that's what happens, right? Something becomes very, very prevalent, and then everyone starts looking at it and talking about it, and then they find the solution. And the only way to shut it down is with a counter that, looks like that.
Yeah.
And
wrestlers develop counters to guillotines, and strikers develp counters to takedowns, and everyone will develop counters to calf kicks. But there's a few different ones that I think we're going to see. But Semelsberger nailed Jason Witt with one.
That was just the perfect. Force meeting force at the same time, wasn't it? He was rushing in, and he just let that right hand go, and dropped him fast, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
There was the next two fights were good as well. Aldrich over Kape and Jinju Frey over Paula.
Very
Two good scraps. Good to see Jinju Frey get a win as well. She's not looked herself really since she came over from Invicta.
Yeah, man, she's in shape, isn't she? I've got
shredded.
trap envy from her. But that was an aesthetically pleasing fight to watch, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They went. I thought the Paula sort of licked her up a little bit standing. Yeah. She's a classic. She's got two parts of the game that are really nice. The jiu-jitsu is really nice, and the striking seemed to be really nice. But the wrestling part in the middle, she just couldn't stop that from happening. Really, could she?
No, not really. But then you kind of bank in one way or the other. You're either going to utilise wrestling to grapple and ground and pound or keep yourself standing, or you're going to go, you can take me down, but I'll use submissions. And that's the thing is with Jinju Frey as well. She's like you said, she's like very physically imposing. So where a lot of female fighters would be working with other female fighters in the gym and be able to move them around, I think Jinju Frey's got a physicality that a lot of the females in that, especially at strawweight, they can't deal with it, or they haven't dealt with it until they've got to that stage in their career.
Impressive. Athlete. Very good.
The next two fights, JJ Aldrich, Courtney Casey, Haqparast was good against. What about Yahya?
Well, he just did.
I know.
He just did. That's what he does, isn't it? It's I think we picked against him because we felt like he was being sort of set up to get a win, but he just did what Ronnie does, doesn't he?
Yeah,
that's what he did.
Well, it was the right opponent to get that victory on his record. And then
movement is so fluid, isn't it? He just rolls everything. No matter what his opponent's doing, he's just a split second ahead of him, and he just moves and counters and moves and counters.
He's a bit of a jiu-jitsu throwback in a lot of ways. Rani Yahya is like there aren't many fighters. I mean, obviously Damian Maia, I would say, is the other one, but Maia worked hard on elevating his striking and his wrestling.
Significantly, didn't he?
Yeah. Like Rani Yahya always looks. I think he always looks uncomfortable unless he's grappling, and that's never ever changed all the way through his career.
Yeah, just get it to the floor. He's all good. Did you think Aldrich won that fight?
I'd have to go back and watch it.
I thought it was pretty close. I felt like it could have gone either way. And even Casey's reaction, sort of, when you see someone react, you can sort of think what they're thinking in their head. It was sort of like, damn it, I shouldn't have let that go to the decision. You can never leave it in the judge's hands. And she was sort of annoyed with herself that she did that.
Yeah.
Because
she has had a few of those fights, though, hasn't she, Courtney Casey? She's had a couple of fights where it could have gone her way. I mean, you look at that record. She's got... look how many split decisions she's got. She's got 2 split decision losses to Felice Herrig and Michelle Waterson. And then a split decision win over Angela Hill. She's always on that precipice where she could win or lose a fight. I mean, obviously the armbar against Barella was very good, but
I can see why JJ won within the context of the rules.
Yeah,
I can see why JJ was awarded that.
Yeah,
that decision
for sure.
But I just didn't feel like she did a lot of damage. If
it's
I'll be honest, just a fight.
Yeah, when I'm watching a fight though, if I'm watching the fights live, I'm not watching thinking, okay, this person is winning the fight. Sometimes I get to the end of the round and go, I'd say that was a 10-9 or a 10-8 to whoever.
Yeah.
But I'm more focused, especially when the fights are live, I'm more focused on who's doing what to set up a finish. And then when the fight gets the distance, if it's a close one, then I'll go back and watch it and I'll go, okay, I'm scoring this. This is why I probably won't make a great judge, because I'm always looking for who's setting up a finish instead of who's accumulating.
Yeah, who's winning within the rule set.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It was close. It was. I thought it was pretty close. But
did Jourdain live up to his nickname?
Oh, man,
he's good, isn't he? Rojo, poor guy.
He ended up getting beaten. It was really close to start with, right? I thought they almost mirrored each other for a lot of the early part of that fight. Jourdain is very sharp, isn't he? He uses that rear leg kick the same way that you were saying Canelo uses his punches. That he's just landing them on the arms. He's just beating your arms up until your arms stop functioning.
Yeah,
and I thought he did that to Rojo a little bit. But yeah, you could just see it was competitive, and then just gradually Rojo was just getting beaten up and landed and beaten up and landed on, and then I think the pendulum really swung at the end of the second. It was almost like, oh, okay, that's done now. And fair play. I mean, Rojo's a good fighter, right? Like he'll definitely figure. He was just half a step behind Jourdain.
Yeah,
be interested to see what they do with Jourdain now. He's both of them are tough dudes, and
yeah, and especially at featherweight, you look at the rest of the people in the division above him, and you're talking the likes of Yahya Rodriguez and Zabit Magomed Sharapov, like Korean Zombie.
Yeah, fun. A lot of fun.
Calvin Cater, that'd be a hell of a fight,
Beautiful.
And obviously Cater's a few steps ahead of him still after that loss, but you can imagine his style and his ability with some of the other guys at the top of that division.
Tasty.
He's definitely on his way.
You see him use the fence to get into the guard, straight off the fence, straight into guard. I don't see that very often.
Not very.
No. Mate, you glossed over Haqparast.
Yeah.
He is going to figure in that division.
Yeah.
He seems like
it's just such a deep division. That's my concern for him.
He's young though, right? 23,
yeah, he is young.
24?
Yeah, he is young.
He feels like he strikes with the power of the weight class above him, and he moves with the fluidity of the weight class below him. He's he's tough, man. He's dangerous. And you know what? Rafa Garcia he's a good fighter as well. He's a really good fighter.
It was a good win for him. The thing is, we're looking at 2 decisions now in his last 2 fights since that loss to Dober. That I want to see him start realizing his potential and his power. You're right. He is young. He's 25. But you've got to do something special in the lightweight division. Like if he was a middleweight or a bantamweight or something like that, I think it'd be easier for him to progress into the top 10, top 15. But you've got to be stopping guys if you're outside the top 15. I mean, he's not ranked at the moment, is he?
No, I don't know.
I like him.
Technically, I think he looks good enough where he's gonna find his groove, isn't he? At some stage, string 3 or 4. Maybe get some finishes and
that's the thing though. He needs to get some finishes. I mean, he's got 1 stoppage in the UFC and 4 decisions, and the decisions have been impressive. You look at the Jacasey one. He was all over Jacasey. A very talented striker. He's a very talented boxer. He's got good footwork. He understands how to take the octagon away from people. But it's that crossing over to realizing that, like at lightweight, you've got to start a few people outside the top 15 to get anybody's attention. Because yourself, the top 5 don't want to fight the top 15.
No interest.
They don't want to open that door because you fall 1 place and you've fallen a long way.
Yeah, and it's hard to get back up in that division, isn't it?
And then you've got to think. I mean, Dober was doing really well until he picked up that loss to Makhachev. So then that drops Dober down, which then further puts pressure on Haqparast dropping down the rankings.
Great division.
But it's always been. I mean, ever since the UFC kind of reintroduced it, it's always been so deep, and every guy's been like the expectation of the competition level at lightweight is so much higher because like all lightweights are sitting on the outside looking in, thinking, "Holy shit! Like these are the guys I'm competing against." I was thinking about that with a guy on this card. What's his name? Grant Dawson.
Yeah.
I know we'll get onto this next weekend's card soon, but like a really, really impressive fighter that's talented everywhere. And then I'm thinking, I'm him sitting outside the featherweight division looking in, thinking I've got distance to cover before I'm competitive with these guys.
Like even at the bottom of the top 15 in Evloev,
Yeah.
like you got to get past him.
Horrible.
Like you could almost, if the rest of the division didn't look like it looked like, you watch him fight, you'll think he's top 5, and he's down at 15.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work to do, isn't it?
It's a uphill battle in the snow with people throwing rocks at you.
Yeah, nice. I mean, I think Nasrat will do something. It's just we'll see when. It's on him really, isn't it? He's going to have to step up and do it.
It is.
Angela Hill looked good again, didn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's fine. I think she's finding a groove. She's just a bit sharper to everything.
Yeah. She's 2-0 in that series now, isn't she? I mean, again, there's a group in that division. Angela Hill's there, where every time she's tried to make a run at the top 10, she's not quite made it.
Yeah, I think we said that in the preview.
Yeah.
She battles to get above that. The elite in that division, the true elite in the division. She battles a bit. I thought Amanda Hebas would be a nice matchup.
That's a good shout.
It'd be fun fight, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's a good shout.
Yeah.
Or Rodriguez, who just beat Hebas, another good one.
She's very. I feel like Angela's really good entering and exiting the clinch when she's up, and she's coming out of the clinch off the wall, or off the fence. She seems to do some damage in that space.
Yeah,
she's got some good skill there.
Yeah, I saw the video of her warming up. Did you see with her boyfriend with all the padding on one leg? She was practicing her calf kicks.
Right,
and she was like stepping and whacking the calf kicks, and you could see even with all the padding it was hurting. I think she's turned a corner ever since she added elbows to her game and realised the potential of her elbows, because it's given her a way to finish fights now, and it's given her a way to punish people when they are trying to clinch her, which for the most part the rest of her career it has been people trying to close her down and take her down. It's
interesting, isn't it? Some people just need to find that one part of their game that was missing, irrelevant of where it is really, and it amplifies everything else in their game. And they finally got that bit they needed. Yeah, we'll see. See where she goes.
It was a bit like for Anderson Silva. There was a point where all of a sudden his tie clinch was deadly, and what was weird is it didn't it appeared in earlier fights. Like when he was fighting in Cage Rage and Pride and stuff. Like you would see glimpses of the tie clinch. Yeah. But when he dominated Rich Franklin twice. It was almost like he was realising it's like, I can just do what I want with these guys in this position.
You are in trouble now.
Yeah.
This just clicked. If you haven't seen the video of him messing around with his son,
no, I haven't.
And the voice in his son's head is he's just placed by him with his son, and he just sort of vaguely gets him. He's like, "Oh, Dad, I didn't mean that. It's yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, lethal. I'm gonna check we're recording still.
Yeah,
we are.
Oh, good.
Come on then. Yeah. So explain to me this knee.
Well,
I've had conversations with other
everything
officials.
I said in the preview about Eric Anders, he basically didn't do. I thought it was way better. I thought he looked in way better shape.
Yeah, he did. He looked trimmed down.
Yeah, he
didn't
looked really trim, and I don't know whether that contributed to it or not, but. He didn't just go straight in and straight out with Darren. Now, whether he'd recognised that he was going to get in some trouble if he just went, if he just went straight in and got caught with Darren's power, then maybe that's an adaptation he'd made. But I thought he looked much better than he had looked. Fair play.
I think when you're a high level athlete, you've always got the ability to look at sport as okay. This is my endeavour. How do I get better at it?
Problem solvers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think, you look at Darren Stewart and you can see obviously the problems that he poses. Like if you move at him, he's going to try and take your head off. And even with your guard up, he's going to be able to hit you and hurt you. And that's not something you want to tangle with.
No, I mean that fight was going south pretty fast for Darren, wasn't it? He got hurt significantly, and obviously the way it ended was controversial to say the least. I mean, I don't want to reopen old wounds, but there's always confusion around one person.
I know.
It's just.
I know.
Do you know what I mean? Like you're paid for accuracy. Do you know what I mean? You're professionals. You're paid for to get rid of confusion.
Yeah.
Like you're almost better to make. Well, you're not. You're not even better to make the wrong call. You just got to make the right call. That's what you're there for. And there's always confusion in that
always
unnamed space that we probably don't need to name. Now, the doctor wasn't much better.
No, but then at the same time, he was put in a position where, two things. One, the doctor was put in a position where he had to call the fight. However, there should be a doctor there that has the confidence to stop a fight if he feels it necessary.
That was not a confident doctor.
That was not a confident
I swear
doctor.
I heard him say this. Darren, if your side of your head is hurting, I really think you should probably not fight. Are you a doctor?
It's sometimes you get these doctors. It shouldn't happen in Vegas, but sometimes you get doctors that don't even look like they've been to a fight before, and like they're overwhelmed by the whole thing.
And we're sort of making light of it, I suppose, and laughing about it because of what's happened in the past. But this needs to be right.
It does.
We're not making light of it in that sense. But it's just got to get right.
It's got to get right. Like I'm not shitting on anybody specifically. Like I was watching a fight today actually for this weekend's card where Goddard stopped a guillotine early, and he's not gonna like me saying that because the thing is, I could see when he was calling the decision, it was like he'd realised that he could have potentially left it a bit longer. And the guy might. I mean, the guy was gargling and shit. Anyway, I've gone off on a tangent. There was no way that was an incidental blow. There's no responsibility on the referee to tell the fighter that his opponent's down. That's the fighter's responsibility. Yeah. So in the week before, when it happened with Peter Yan, just because the referee said the fighter's down, that doesn't make the illegal blow any more illegal or less illegal if they don't do it.
No.
Like think Askarov.
Yeah.
He's deaf. He wouldn't be able to hear the referee.
Yeah.
Like it's not the referee's responsibility to tell the fighter that they're down. Second of all, he was kneeling down against the fence, and Anders had his hand on his head, and he was holding him in that position when he needed him. And as soon as Herb steps in and broke it, like you just watch it back, the look that he gives Anders is like, dude, come on, like that was an illegal shot.
Yeah,
it was like because he almost did it a bit earlier in the fight, and it hit Darren's arm, and Herb didn't warn him for it then, which maybe was probably a good time to do it. Watch your knees, watch your striking targets. That can't be a confusion though. Like not new rules, old rules, anything. No. A fighter with a knee down is a downed fighter, unless you're fighting in pride.
Yeah,
that's the situation.
Mate, I feel like we touched on it in the review of the Peter Yan incident, in that Anders was in fight mode.
Yeah,
he was. It's hard to tell because this is only my opinion of watching it, but he was in fight mode. And he was finishing that fight. He was fighting another dude. I'm fighting another dude now. The rules had gone amiss because he was he was zoned in to finishing this fight.
Yeah.
And he threw a knee to finish a fight that he was in.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it was intentional.
It was intentional. You don't throw it. You don't throw it. So there's some confusion around. How could a knee to the head be incidental?
Yeah.
So think for example, someone's level changing. And as their level changing, their opponent throws a knee. And as the knee connects, their opponent's knee's already down.
Yeah.
That's an incidental knee because they didn't throw it when the person's knee was down.
Yeah.
But when you're holding someone against the fence and they've been down for a little while, there's no way that's an incidental knee.
No, I don't get it. And I don't get why there is confusion. I don't get why there's confusion by professionals.
I know.
I don't know what else to say, really.
And it's unfortunate because, obviously it didn't work out terribly for either guy because neither one got the win. But Darren didn't get his win bonus. And I don't know whether Eric Anders would have got one either, but you know what I mean? Like there's a financial implication there as well from the bad call. Because it was a disqualification. It's an illegal knee to a down fighter. And
I mean, look, I think the fight was going similarly to last week. I think the fight was going a certain way, and I can't imagine how Darren was going to come back from that. And I think even in the some of his post-fight comments, he was sort of questioning what do I do now, because I think he knows he was losing that fight.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, that's the reality. I mean, Eric Anders did look really good. He was winning the fight. Had he not thrown that knee and thrown a few more punches, he would have probably got the fight stopped.
I think so.
And and he would have got the win. The downside is though that's not, the precedent is not set that you just don't knee an opponent when they've got a knee down.
Yeah.
And that's got to be clear. That's got to be clear to everybody. It's the same thing with the eye pokes. Obviously, we'll get onto that, but that's not spoken about enough. And the solution in that is to fix the gloves. My glove collection. I've got a set from every single major organisation.
Yeah.
And the UFC glove is the only one that pulls your hand open when you're wearing it. And I've never understood it. And the other thing as well, you arrive fight week, You're trying your gloves on like Tuesday or Wednesday with no hand wraps on, and you're like, yep, they feel all right. They feel all right. I wear a medium. Put those gloves away. They bring those gloves to the arena, and once I've got my hand wraps, they give the gloves, and I put them on. I'm like, ugh. It's like I remember walking to the octagon. Yeah,
they got to fix it.
I remember walking to the octagon, and I had pins and needles in my fingers from closing my fists.
Yeah, doesn't exactly encourage you to keep a fist in the fight, does it?
I was working out with the rising gloves on the other day, and you have to make an effort to work against the glove to open your hand.
So do you think? Yeah, right. So obviously you're sort of answering my question. Do you think if they reset the glove to much more of a curve for the striking, it would have a significant impact on your grappling?
Significant? No,
it
not negative. No,
because
if you need to do that, you can.
But we're hooking, we're hooking a lot and capping a lot in grappling anyway.
Your preset should never ever be palms open unless you're posting and building frames. But even if you're doing that, you can work against the gloves in that scenario.
Yeah,
you spend far less time in this position than you do in this position. So they should be shaped, and like you said, most of the time you're hooking. So, like, you're not forcing your fingers open.
Yeah.
I don't see... And
I feel like it would get tied up really quick if your relaxed reset position was with a curve in your hand. It's we're just not going to see that problem. No. You would have to work against the glove to then eye poke, even if you were, even if you were sort of traditional Thai style, you're going to be all right.
I was chatting with a few people about it and the different types of gloves. And I've said this over years, and I know a lot of other people have spoken out about it as well. Like the UFC gloves are a big part of the problem, and they could be fixed, and they do need to be. And I think if you look at, like, say IMAF, for example, you look at the IMAF gloves, and they've got a clear curve to them, and over a tournament they have maybe 500 fights, and like the last one, I think there was one bad eye poke.
I mean, I wonder if you canvassed all of the organisations and you had a look at which fights are stopped by eye pokes, what the stats would be.
But even thinking back to Pride, I don't remember eye pokes in Pride. I remember a lot of other stuff that should have been illegal, but I don't remember any eye pokes.
Definitely encouraged.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I don't remember any eye pokes in Pride, and they had gloves that had the curve in them as well. Yeah. It's got to be a preset. Anyway.
I suppose I'm surprised in some ways. The organisation in question should be at the forefront of making these changes. I wonder what the size of it. I wonder if that is such a huge undertaking. They're consciously not looking at it yet, but I feel like when main events are getting altered the way they are, it would just stimulate that company to do something about it pretty fast.
Yeah. Especially when you got 3 guys in the booth and 5 eyes between them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like Bisping will take his eye out and throw it on the table in front of you to prove his case.
Man, he's been through the ringer, Mike, hasn't he?
Annie.
Knees, hips, eyes.
All of it.
Everything.
He's the bionic man. He's the bionic Bisping.
That's the price. That's the price for professional sport, I think, to some degree, innit?
I agree.
Yeah. You're right, again.
About
you and V were right. Nicolau.
Yeah.
Special, innit?
Yeah, he's good. Sharp, slick.
Very slick.
Yeah, and that's a good win as well, because Kape's, he's had 2 rough fights in the UFC now, and obviously the previous one against Pantoja was like, oh, well, that is a rough fight, but Nicolau coming in largely unknown to a lot of people.
It was a close fight. It was a very close fight. You could make an argument either way.
Yeah. I just thought it was sharper. I thought he was just generally a bit less trajectory based. Like Kape's
lungy,
and there's a build up and a surge to his style, which with Nicolau you don't get, and you can tell how considered he is as well.
He's got I don't know the correct terminology for it, but he's got a really nice sort of fade off his jab. So he'll jab and he'll fade to the right, and they'll pivot, and he's in that Bermuda Triangle where you just can't see anyone. The most scary place in the world when somebody stood here trying to punch you.
Yeah, when you've been flanked.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But he's got a really, really nice, almost like it sort of funnels off and then cuts an angle. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Davy Grant, Jonathan Martinez was a hell of a fight.
I said to you earlier, didn't I? Like, how can you not like Davy Grant? He's like the nicest guy in MMA, pretty much, isn't he?
And he had a lovely little step through as well.
Yeah.
To pull his right hook around. Yeah. And Dan Ige is just, he's always one of those guys that doesn't speak up enough. He's not controversial enough. He's consistent and he's smart and he's...
That's why you have to strike with the head on the midline, innit? Like we've got an ex-English representative up at the gym, Josh Hamilton MMA, and all he talks about. He just never strikes with his head on the midline. He feints and strikes with his head off the midline, and he's just obsessed about it. And that's why, because otherwise I don't think we've seen that. I don't think this is a power thing from Ige. Like, I don't think we've seen that power from him before, have we? Which makes me think it's not just he's a mechanical power freak. No. It was just beautiful timing.
That's it. I just think he's technically very good. I think technically he's very good, and I think sometimes the times that he struggles is when he's like the Kape fight. The reason I think he struggled in that fight is because Kape brings a fury that doesn't let him think, and I think Ige is a little bit over analytical sometimes when he's under that kind of surging pressure. That it's more about, let me deal with what's in front of me and then I'll start thinking about my own offense. He's not as reactive. But I thought, that knockout I felt was less reactive and more calculated. I don't think he necessarily...
Really?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. I thought it wasn't... I thought what I was going to say is maybe he wasn't overthinking it and it was so reactionary and that's why it sort of came off. He wasn't thinking about placing it. It was just a reaction. But,
yeah, no, I think he saw it. I think there was a boxer I was watching the other day. I think he might have been a Korean boxer. And I was watching... He was doing a pad sequence where he was watching... He's a pad man. Throw a jab and he was recognising the jab was coming out and then catching with the counter. And his intention was, as he saw the jab, he was slipping and countering what was going to be the right hand to follow. And honestly, like, he nailed it. I mean, he did it a few times on the pad, but then it showed a clip of him doing it in a fight. And it's like they've spotted an opportunity and they train the reactions. Like, I'm going to recognise this punch coming and I'm countering the one I know's coming next.
Beautiful.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And it was like, it felt to me like he sat down and he looked at it and he'd gone, oh, I see there's an opening right there. When he does that thing, his chin's right in that spot. And he just uncorks it perfectly. That's like going... Same as Masvidal with Askren. Sorry to cut you off.
Oh, see, can we just note that because it's not always me.
We'll timestamp it. Dan interrupts Ollie.
Revenge cut off. I mean, like, even from our slightly different perspectives, is going back to the power issue. The power issue from a physical performance coaching point of view, it's our responsibility to grow that pool of power. Like you have more access to more power, and then it's the technical and tactical coaches' responsibility to make sure you use that power accurately and impose that power at the right time. And that's always the relationship that I would talk about. Is that, look, we're building the engine or we're building the power, the horsepower, but you still got to apply it right. Otherwise, it's just wasted horsepower.
Yeah,
it's like I'm on a Ferrari with a toddler driving it. There's a lot of power, but you can't drive it.
Yeah,
I thought his call out of Chiasson Young was beautiful. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does. But he's still polite doing it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, but
it's still it's a bit like, forgive me for making this call out.
It's funny the minute, like, maybe that's him though. Like, why can't you just be you? Do you know what I mean? Like,
I tell you why.
Otherwise, you end up with Colby and...
No, it's because the thing is, if someone's like think back to Nate Diaz calling out McGregor. If he'd have called out McGregor the same way that Ige called out Korean
but that's pretty much Nate though. That's Nate being Nate.
But there's a reason why people like that.
Yeah.
And people don't gravitate towards a weaker call out.
Yeah.
It's because you hear Nate and you're like, that motherfucker knows he's going to win. He knows he's going to win.
Yeah.
I want to watch that fight because of how confident he is.
Yeah.
Whereas if Nate's like, I'd quite like a fight against Conor because, I feel like he's kind of taking...
so kind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like people are going, he don't even think he's going to win himself. He wants the payday.
And we've talked about the apex of entertainment sport, and that's where you're at.
Subconsciously, the fans are... They're looking for a tribal leader. That's what they're investing in.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
when you see Nate Diaz getting the camera, like, you've taken everything I work for, motherfucker.
Yeah.
I'm going to fight your ass. You're like, I'm behind him.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
I'm on. Yeah.
Yeah, 209. Yeah, I think I was from there. Yeah, I tell you his name. He kept out his mouth. He didn't mention Zabit, did he?
No,
no one mentions Zabit. No way.
No.
Yeah.
The next person to fight Zabit has got to push for 5 rounds.
Yeah,
That's his get out at the moment. He's not taking those 5-round fights. Like when he fought Kape, was at Moscow, St. Petersburg. That was a fight that was main event. It was bumped up to main event. It should have been over 5 rounds, but the Zabit team didn't want it because they'd not had time to prepare.
And you know that.
Yeah,
right. Okay.
But the interesting thing was, if you watch the fight play out, like Kape is a slow starter.
Yeah.
Which is why I thought his fight against Holloway would be more competitive and, made Holloway's win even more impressive because he started at a pace and then escalated it. Whereas like Kape in the Zabit fight, in that 3rd round, was starting to come on strong. And Zabit in a few times has looked like he's
It's very uncharacteristic of that demographic of fighters.
It is, but I think that's partly down to his weight.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you speak to his coaches and his teammates, and they're like, at welterweight in the gym, he's a murderer. Like, he beats everybody. Walks onto the mats at 175, and he's lighting people up. Like, and he's fighting at featherweight. Like, maybe the best weight class for his cardio is 155.
Yeah.
Like, well, you can speak to that better than I can. Like, there's got to be something, a negative cardiac impact if you're forcing yourself down to a weight class that's not healthy.
Absolutely, and I just don't. You do see people do those cuts, and they do just about manage to recover fully, and perform. But it's a hell of a, it's a hell of a stressor on a human organism. The amount of sort of cortisol that is released under that amount of pressure, you just very rarely you're going to perform to your optimum.
Is there something to be said for a level of body fat on a fighter, and how that complements to their conditioning? Like a small level, because he's very, very lean as well.
Yeah, but I would think that genetics would probably override that a little bit.
Right.
I think I can't imagine any physiological benefit in terms of you wouldn't necessarily be accessing that for energy because the fights aren't long enough. You wouldn't.
That doesn't change over 25 minutes.
Yeah, because it's never on or off. It's a sliding scale. But I wouldn't think I wouldn't think significantly enough. It's a carbohydrate based sport, fuel sport. I wonder. I don't think there'll be anything there in terms of sort of padding up, but there would be something in terms of weight, having more weight when you got back in there. But yeah, I think genetics probably overrides everything really.
Sometimes you see those fighters and they get themselves down. Well, there's one on this weekend's card, Leo Santos. Like when I was after the boat race, actually, funnily enough, I went over to Nova and Yao, and I didn't recognize him because he was so big.
Right.
And he's a 55er, and he's like.
So that's I think that's slightly different to what we're saying though. That there's definitely a physiological benefit for not going from that size to absolutely ripped to the hills.
Yeah.
Because of the cost on your body to do that.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about, is it just better for me to just have my weight have a little bit of body fat? Not necessarily sure.
That's what I'm saying.
Is
like I think Zabit's natural weight is around 175.
Yeah.
And he's probably pretty lean at 175.
Yeah.
Which means that he's not.
How much energy you'd have in camp and not having to do all of that.
Yeah.
I mean, we cycle around
6'2"?
on this.
I think at 155 he would look much better, much healthier. He'd look stronger. He'd have good gas for 5 rounds. Because I don't think it's not a preparation thing. It's not a hard work. He might be running out of
glycogen. You know what I mean? To do that cut, to get him to deplete himself to the point where he's getting there, he might just not be able to replenish his glycogen stores to the.
I knew I was onto something.
Level.
I knew I was onto something.
But yeah,
I didn't have the glycogen word to throw in there. But
do we want Zabit at
too much adenosine diphosphate in his system, Ollie? Is that what it needs? You need a bit of creatine phosphorus floating around to bind itself and get it back into the muscles.
Oh man, you're a
it's an anaerobic sport, isn't it?
Well, yeah, based on aerobic sport, heavy base.
How did we get to there?
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of people would take that fight against Zabit over 5 rounds. I think the top of the division would look at him and go, you've got to get through those hellish 2 rounds because he's a wizard in those first 2 rounds. And I also think that his style is it must be taxing on his cardiovascular system, especially his glycogen stores, if he's so explosive.
But even if I think about if I was in his camp, like, what are we saying? Are you going to do this forever? You're always going to be in this weight class. Are you going to be able to do that forever? It doesn't seem to be any longevity in it.
Yeah,
what are you going to do? Even if you could get up and be the champ, you're going to have to leave that weight class at some stage.
Maybe.
Should you do that now and save your mental and physical health?
I mean, I think some fighters, they spend the majority of their career at a particular weight, and then when they get to the UFC, it also coincides with them getting older and maybe stepping up a weight class. Like Darren Till's a good example.
Yeah,
like Darren Till came into the UFC at welterweight fully with the intention of winning the belt at 170 and then going up to 185. But he knew his time at 170 was going to run
limited,
out.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, well, let me just keep myself in this weight class and get to the belt as quickly as possible, which he did, and he just wasn't able to get it. But that you can see that was his plan, and it might be the same with Zabit. Like he might have come in, especially with the likes of Khabib and stuff at the top. Like he might just not have wanted to be in conflict with those guys. He might have been waiting for his opportunity to step up after. But coming in at 145, I bet his thought process was, let's go for the belt right now,
and then get out,
and then we'll move on.
Yeah,
because he is. I mean, he's 6'2", and he's just not.
Frightening.
He's physiologically, he's not. He's too big for the division. I think too big for his frame's too big for the weight class.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. I hope he does it.
That weight class is
sooner rather than later, though.
I mean, I've just been saying that the lightweight division's always been the most competitive, and it is, with Gillespie being at number 15. But look at that featherweight ranking: Evloev Barbosa, Bryce Mitchell, Shane Burgos, Arnold Allen, Sadiq Youssef, Dan Ige, Jeremy Stevens, Josh Emmett, Calvin Kattar, Korean Zombie, Rodriguez, Magomed Sharapov, Ortega, Holloway, and then Volkanovski.
Is there anyone else that you don't say their name, but you call them by their nickname?
No. Well, there's nobody. There are very few fighters that are written into the organization's graphics
as their
nickname. Yeah. Shogun.
Right.
Like most of the time,
sense.
they wouldn't write Mauricio Hua, they'd write Shogun Hua. But Korean Zombie is one of the only ones.
Yeah.
For sure. Chan Sung Jun.
Yeah.
It is odd.
It's not like a difficult name either.
No, I don't think so.
Well, they've branded him for himself, so there you go. He's got a full-on
but
brand.
now he's locked into that fighting style, you see. He's always got to fight like that.
Oh, man. The Circunov Spann fight. When there's no crowd and you can hear the punches like whirring through the air.
Yeah.
There's a lot of power in those two boys. It was like a heavyweight bout, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Look.
Same thing as I was talking about. Like Circunov is vulnerable early. Early. First 90 seconds. I mean, just like look at that for consistency.
Yeah, I don't.
Like, what is it? So, I mean, we're talking the losses. We've got minute 11 against Spann, 38 against Johnny Walker, 2:45 against Glover Teixeira, but he's older, so he works a bit slower, and then 28 seconds against Özdemir.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder what that is. I wonder if that's a psychological intervention that needs to be sort of made there. I wonder if his prep to fight day prep is good enough. I don't know. Without peeking behind the curtain, I wouldn't know. But
I'd give him a game plan to get him to the stool at the end of the first round. That'd be my goal. Then, if I was his coach, I'd be like, right, this is what we're doing for the first round. There are no finishing tactics in this first round. It's about measuring, managing, controlling, and predicting. Like, understand what you're dealing with. Come back at the end of the first round, sit on your stool, and then we'll decide which way we're going to attack.
He's got skills.
Everywhere.
He has got some nice skills.
I don't know whether he starts too fast, and maybe that's because he's a bit anxious.
Well, it was funny. On the last podcast, I said something about, I'm going to say this respectfully. You mentioned don't say anything about his wife. I was like, oh, okay, I didn't get that reference. So I googled it afterwards, and she's like, obviously she's gorgeous, and he stood there, ripped to the hill with a knife. Just stood like that. Yeah. I dare you say something. I was like, oh, okay, I understand now.
Yeah.
I get you.
He's like a character out of a Bond movie. I sat next to him at a UFC once. He's got the bottom teeth are all silver.
Nice.
It's a strong look. I need some silver teeth to go with
big unit, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
So Spann called out Jimmy Crute, Anthony Smith. Didn't
he?
Yeah. I think they're both really, really cool fights.
Yeah. Well, it's the winner, isn't it? I mean, they're matched up very soon.
Yeah.
which is a hell of a fight.
And I mean, I don't know if they're remaking Jamal Hill and Paul Craig, but Paul Craig would be a fun fight. That'd be a good match, I think.
Yeah, Paul Craig's inside the rankings now, isn't he?
Just, I think. So, look.
Yeah, 14.
Yeah.
And Ryan Spann's just above him.
Yeah. You know.
Although that's got to change. That's got to change.
Well, they wouldn't have done it. Would they do it? They're doing it today,
yeah,
don't
they'll
they?
be doing it today. We're up a bit earlier. So Ryan Spann may even jump above Jimmy Crute, which may be provocative. You know, you got Krylov as well, just a little bit higher up.
Yeah.
That's coming off that loss to Ankalaev.
Yeah, he's
There's good
man.
options.
He's a. I don't know whether he'll end up being the gatekeeper there or to the top 5 or not. But yeah, that's a horrible gatekeeper.
Who? Krylov.
Krylov, yeah.
He is very good.
So, yet more controversy in the main event.
Of course.
Just frustrating, wasn't it? I think for everyone, viewers,
Dude, the
noise
that Bilal Muhammad was making when he got poked in the eye.
Mate,
it was like
he ain't faking that, is he?
No, and I couldn't. And after seeing the photos as well, it was like a cartoon, wasn't it? Where his eyelid was.
It was a little bit of a different eye poke to usual. It wasn't like it was a hook, almost hooked under his eyelid.
It's like he's gonna wedgie him. You know?
Like
pull his eyelid over his.
Nasty.
Yeah, it was bad.
You know, it was.
I couldn't tell whether he was screaming because he was in pain or because of the situation.
Yeah, I think the situation got to him quite a bit, wasn't it? Like, this is his big, this is his chance, his showcase, and this is not the way. No doubt he would have visualised how this was going to go, and he would never have thought this was the way it was going to go.
No, but he I think he knew immediately that he wasn't going to be able to continue because his emotional response, although obviously it was incredibly painful. The adrenaline that you're going through in that moment, I
don't think that was a pain thing.
I don't think it was. No, I think it was just the realization that I cannot see out of this eye anymore.
Yeah, and it was the end. It was clearly the end.
Yeah,
I mean, Leon's winning that fight.
Yeah, he was.
I think we said in the preview people have forgotten about Leon.
Yeah,
and I think to some degree I'd forgotten about him because he's sharp and he punches hard and straight and he moves beautifully. He's got a lovely way that he flows through stances with his striking, better than you see pretty much anywhere else. He landed that head kick and it was,
he's very, very good. There's no doubt about it. He's very good, and unfortunately, he didn't get a conclusive finish to that. He's not going to want to run it back with Bilal Muhammad, and still, no one is going to want to fight him.
No,
because everyone can see how good he is.
And it's sort of, I get it. Would I have called for a title shot after that? Probably not.
No,
it's probably not the right move. But I understand there's a lot of frustration behind. He probably never wanted to fight Bilal.
No, he didn't. No,
do you know what I mean? It was like I don't want to do this fight, but I want to fight.
Exactly. And I think that's why Bilal had the reaction that he did, is because he realised that
he's not going to get his chance again.
Exactly. Yeah. It was an opportunity to jump right the rankings in a way that would have changed the rest of his career. I mean, he's ranked number 13. He was fighting 10 places above him at number 3.
Yeah, it doesn't happen, does it?
It doesn't. And I think obviously there was a lot of emotion going into the fight as well. What with his dad's business getting ransacked and shut down. I think he felt in his mind a lot was hinging on it, but at the same time, I also think he was aware that the first couple of 3 rounds he was going to have to really go through some fire. So
Leon's just sharper than him.
He was, but the fight might have been going the way that Bilal expected it to.
Yeah, maybe. He's got a hell of a gas tank. Hasn't
he might have been banking on the
weathered
third,
it
fourth,
and
fifth.
Yeah, true. And we've seen enough fights where you should never predict the outcomes to live because anything literally anything can happen. He's got
to look up the rankings now. He's got to get someone that's going to make a difference in his career.
I feel like they'll probably look after him, won't they? They'll give him. So. They'll give him. I'm not sure they'll give him Leon again, but they'll give him someone maybe around 5 to 10, maybe.
Yeah, but I'm looking at the rankings. Like, who would fight him? Like Covington, absolutely not. Gilbert Burns may be able to be talked into it, but
he'd fight him, I reckon.
You reckon?
I reckon.
I think that'd be a hell of a fight, Gilbert Burns. But I also think Tyron Woodley would be a good fight for him, who's only a few above. And if you're Bilal Muhammad and you look at someone like Tyron Woodley, who likes to fight with his back up against the fence and pick his shots and bide his time, someone like Bilal Muhammad, who's like a glacier, like just slowly crawls over you. I think that'd be a good fight for him. Chiasson's on the rise, so he's not going to want to be looking behind him. He wants somebody above.
I'd like that fight, but Chiasson's not taking that
for sure.
No way.
Wonder Boy will push for the Leon Edwards fight because that's 2 places above him, and he's going to not want to fight Bilal Muhammad, especially because Wonder Boy's late 30s now. Like he's got to start thinking about making moves.
It's like our age.
You say that like we're old, but he's going to be looking up the rankings because he's not going to want more than sort of 3 fights before he gets a title shot. So that's why the outburst from
I like that Tyrant fight
works. That doesn't it? Yeah, I think so. I don't know what's going on.
You think Tyrant would take that?
I mean, he might, but then I don't know. He's not won since he released that "Whoop Your Ass" song or whatever it was called.
He didn't win with that either. You never know. Financially, he might have won.
I don't think he did. Yeah. I don't think he did.
If Cash Me Outside can make money, even he can make money. Frustrated. Just a frustrating night, wasn't it? I enjoyed some of the fights immensely, but I think overall, everyone was just like, "Oh man, I can't believe this is happening." 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, it was pretty frustrating.
Yeah, right. All good.
Yeah, I'm just checking the recording. We're at 50 odd minutes. I reckon we'll just keep rolling, shall we?
Yeah. So if you do want to support our new sponsors, if you have a look in the comment section below, there'll be a link, and if you put the Outlaw in at the checkout, you will get 15% off your purchases, and we can genuinely vouch for their very, very nice gear and a very cool company.
Yes.
Cool guys to deal with, and support if you can. Appreciate it. Right, the pick show.
This weekend's Derek Brunson v Kevin Holland main event.
Fight
headline. Yes, fight night. Loads of good fights on this card. As we always say, that's kind of what we do. But there are good fights
because we do that every week. This is going to be a good one.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see Kevin Holland. I think the co-main event is potentially going to steal the show.
Man.
But some really, really good matchups all the way down the card. I mentioned Grant Dawson and Leo Santos earlier as well. But there's a lot to get into. I mean, first of all, we've got a husband and wife fighting on the card, haven't we?
Yeah.
JP, and I don't know how
is
this
that possible anywhere else in the organisation?
I don't know.
Maybe
has it happened anywhere else? I don't know. I know that we've got a husband and wife. She fought the other week. Montana De La Rosa.
Right.
Her and her husband Mark De La Rosa are both signed, but I don't think they've ever fought on the same card.
No.
So that's got to be
interesting.
Yeah, it's like a second honeymoon for them at the Apex. That's JP Bays against Bruno Silva kicking off the card. Bruno Silva was on that card that V fought on in Brasilia. Showed up with these big spiky sunglasses on that looked like he was going to hurt somebody.
Oh, I thought you meant like Elton John then. No. Which way you were going?
No, he had these. He'll probably be wearing them at the weigh-ins. Big old sunglasses with spikes all the way around them, like studs. Like something off the Van Damme movie Cyborg.
Nice.
For the hardcore MMA martial arts fans out there. He's had a couple of really hard opponents. First of all, he had David Dvorak, who I very much enjoyed his UFC debut. I think he's incredibly talented. And then that last fight against Ulanbekov showed good things, but fights like a guy that's got longer arms than he actually has. You know what I mean? A bit Sean Shirk, a bit like punches a lot of air, or gets too close to his opponent and doesn't give himself enough space. Really good low kicks though. And I mean, Ulanbekov took the kicks really well, and that was a really problematic fight for him. But he's got the intention to be problematic, to really be aggressive. And JP Baez is the same. I mean, what's he got? He's got more of a takedown top control game, but that was the controversial guillotine stoppage.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was like he was all over it. He was, what was his opponent's name? Jacob Silva. He was all over him. And he ended up having him in this guillotine. They were right crammed up into the fence corner. It was like last 10 seconds of the first round. And I watched it back a few times. I was trying to figure out what in his body posture had given Goddard the impression that he was out. And you can kind of see it, like he stands up on his tiptoes to drive his head further into the guillotine to alleviate the pressure. And he does kind of lose his footing. And there's a replay on it where you can kind of hear, right at the very start of the replay, you can hear him breathing. And you can kind of hear him going, you know what I mean? Like he was struggling. And I don't know whether Goddard thought that he was unconscious and that jumped in and stopped it there. But it was an early stoppage, and I think Goddard will have been it will have been disappointed he didn't let that one go a bit longer.
The thing I like about Mark is he'll probably admit that anyway.
Oh yeah,
like he's not going to hide behind it.
I'm going to shit talk him this week when I see him at Cage Warriors. I'm going to make sure he knows about it because it's very rare that I get to call him out on something.
Yeah,
it was unfortunate, but JP Bays was all over him. He was all over him, like manhandle him, good body locks, good takedowns, you know. Top pressure, top control, sub attacks. This is going to be much more about him trying to get the fight to the floor, and Bruno Santos might have a bit more striking space in this one.
Right.
Good place to start the card off, though. Hang on a minute, what's the next one? Avila against Stolyarenko. Stolyarenko's just coming off that loss to Kunitskaya. She just got clinched and outstruck and beat up pretty good, but she's 10th planet. She loves pulling guard. And Avila has got really good scrambles.
Nice.
Like very aggressive.
I've got a question for you for a fight that is further up the card.
Yep.
I think someone is a 10th planet brown belt further up the card. I'll find it in the notes in a sec. But
Montserrat.
So is that comparable? So if you're saying you're a 10th planet brown belt, you're a brown belt in mainstream BJJ.
I don't think so.
You're a brown belt at the skills and the structure of 10th planet jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you can take 10th planet brown belts and put them in a grappling competition with other brown belts, and they're absolutely comparable skill wise.
Yeah. The syllabus is not the same.
The syllabus is not the same.
Yeah.
I have a purple belt in 10th planet, but if I was putting a gi on, especially after this length of time, I'd put my white belt back on. It's a very different system, and I've always felt like, and this is by no means an insult to 10th planet, but I've always felt like it was like a bolt-on to a basic ground game. Like, and that's what Eddie started with Jean-Jacques Machado, and he learnt Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but then branched off on his own. But then his branching off then became a system in itself.
It's almost cultish, isn't it? It's like,
a little bit.
It's like, yeah.
It's where everybody that goes into a Gracie Barra and doesn't have $85 to buy a new gi because it's got the right patches on it,
right?
They all find their way to 10th planet.
Yeah.
It's the kids that come from breakdancing and
tattooing.
It's
kind of cool,
and graffiti.
Isn't it? It's just kind of like, it's a cool brand.
I mean, I've always loved being a part of 10th planet and representing it, and the classes were electric back in the day. You know, those old Hollywood days, man. When it was like the class would start at 9 and we'd drill for an hour and then we'd just get into rounds. And like 20 minutes before rounds started, Rogan would show up and start warming up for rounds, and Jeff Glover would drop in.
That was
a
cool era of MMA, wasn't it?
It was cool.
Very cool era.
And the Hollywood era, the old 10th Planet legends. Like the guys that we had rolling through, I rolled with loads and loads of like top flight guys before I'd even signed my UFC contract. And the other thing I love about the 10th Planet system is that it continually grows. And everybody in there, it's quite a creative environment because there's not a rigid structure like, no, don't contribute to it. It's like, how's that working? Can we absorb that?
Yeah, I like that.
So like you've got all these guys like the 10th Planet freaks are doing great things. You've got Denny Prokopis who's always adding new stuff. Sean Bollinger, who I used to train with, he was a brown belt when I was training there. He could heel hook himself. It was ridiculous. Like literally could put his toes in his opposite armpit and heel hook himself with his flexibility. But he developed a whole bunch of techniques that he taught.
It's funny
to
how
Eddie.
you would come about finding that out.
I know.
Like how
he was like
how
one
did
of those.
he get there?
I don't know. He was one of those like free flexible guys. You know what I mean? He could like put both of his legs behind his head without touching them, and he was wicked talented. But then like there were certain things he could do that Eddie couldn't do. So then like he would teach Eddie some stuff, and
nice.
He was always very open minded,
unconstrained by tradition, sort of thing. And it's like just whatever works, and whatever you can come up with, we'll create it, and then we'll test it, and then it's good, it stays. No good, we get rid of it.
That's it.
I like the concept.
Yeah, and I think it's probably because Eddie met resistance with what he was doing. You know, like him like pulling guard and like climbing his guard high and using rubber guard to tie people's arms up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like goes to New York, mission control, and then he's got the person pinned there, and then all of a sudden, like MMA guys are looking at it and thinking, "Oh, I can tie somebody up there and stall and strike while they can't attack me." So it kind of found its way into the MMA world, and that's where it got a lot of its fame. But I think it's a good system for MMA. I think my only criticism is that some of the guys, even the high level guys, they'll miss the basic shrimp and guard recover, or like basic mount escapes.
Yeah.
Like they won't elbow knee escape. They'll go in the armpits and push and bridge over to try and take the back. Or you know what I mean? It's like let's go for the most outlandish technique instead of the basic.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
all sports, the basics are there. The basics for a reason, always, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know, they don't take you to the higher echelons, but you can't get there without them. The foundations and basics are synonymous, aren't they?
The best people that have utilised 10th Planet, in my opinion, are guys that already came over from another jiu-jitsu or grappling school and had good skills.
Going back to the add-on idea.
Yeah.
Add it into your already fundamental game.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like George Soteropoulos is the one that comes to mind. Ben Saunders, another one. But George Soteropoulos was a good black belt. Then he came over to start integrating 10th Planet and was able to use it quite well.
I was like, everything that he does is just blanked out by Ross hitting him so hard that his both feet retracted off of the ground at the same time.
Oh, that was a wicked knockout.
Yeah, it was. It was so much like built up behind that as well. They've been at each other for weeks. Yeah. He sort of bang.
I was surprised how unpopular George was when I was because I was over there. Well, we were both over there.
They were most people on Ross's side.
Yeah,
most Australians were on Ross's side.
Yeah,
it works.
Married into
over
the
there.
country, hadn't he? Yeah. Yeah, it's Montserrat.
Yeah, that might be it. Yeah.
Yeah. Montserrat Ruiz. She's 10th Planet. Okay. Montel Jackson against Jesse Strader. Strader. That's a big ask for Jesse Strader coming in. He's 5-1. He's coming into the UFC. He's making his debut coming in from Combate. He's fought in King of the Cage early on, and he's had 4 fights in Combate. He's actually lost to Marcelo Rojo. That's his one loss. But these last 2 fights, I watched them both. Beat Michael Jackson up, and then he fought another guy, Isaiah Batin Gonzalez, and stiffed him with a left hook. And he's one of those guys that a bit John Lineker in the way that he moves, like he carries his fists like they're heavy, and then when he steps in, he goes body, head, or body, head, body, and he keeps mixing the power hooks up. Yeah. And I was listening to an interview with him the other day, and it was yesterday I was listening to it. So he's a high school wrestler, but he started wrestling at high school because all of the champs in the UFC were wrestlers.
Wow.
Like he didn't and this is the generation that we're talking
about. That's how young he is.
I know, right?
Wow.
So yeah, he started high school wrestling because he couldn't afford to go to an MMA school.
Right.
So he did high school wrestling. Once he'd shown his parents he was committed to it, they started putting him into jiu-jitsu and stuff.
I like it.
That's crazy,
isn't it?
Yeah.
Fair play.
It's like, I mean, how often does that happen now? Like high school wrestlers get into wrestling because of MMA.
Oh, now, yeah,
right?
man, now
must happen a lot now.
Couldn't have happened previously, really.
I mean, if we were at school, we'd do wrestling, wouldn't we? Right now, like if we had wrestling,
if they had wrestling at school as part of the far too confrontational for the British, my friend.
Far too confrontational.
Well, Q, we might get queuing in PE. We certainly won't be wrestling.
Right.
Queuing and politeness.
That's it. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. Apologising.
Yeah.
That's the national sport of England. Not a fan of it.
Yeah. No, even through gritted teeth.
Not very good at it.
So, Trevin Giles.
So
this was Dricus Duplessis, right? But he couldn't get a visa.
Yeah. That was Don Madge had the same problem last week as well. It's, I mean, obviously South Africa's got their own strain at the moment, and not the good kind of strain either.
No. No. Sure they do, but
it's not. Well, they might. But
So Roman Dolidze.
Yeah.
Who is a beast. Yeah.
8-0.
8-0. And if he gets older, you're in a bit of trouble, aren't you?
Yeah.
I mean, I know we're not allowed to talk about generalizations and stereotypes and what have you in 2021, but man, he reminds me of Dolidze.
Yeah.
He just reminds me of just a thicker version of him.
Thicker version. I didn't think about that.
He throws his kick like remarkably similar.
Yeah.
He throws his left kick remarkably similar to Dolidze.
Is it? I had not made that connection.
Yeah,
that is
you
an
go.
excellent connection.
Thank you.
Southpaw, loads of powerful left kicks, but then falls into his punches from his kicks.
Yeah.
Good body locks as well, as you would expect from a Georgian wrestler.
He sort of, your kidney twitches a little bit when you see him get that body like that. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. I feel my floating ribs aching from watching him put the squeeze on.
I think he might get beaten for speed a little bit, though.
Yeah.
Like, Trevin's pretty sharp.
He is sharp. He's got a good jab, and he's got that awkwardly confident movement where he kind of like leans, like
he could sort of lure you in if you weren't quick enough to do anything about it. Lure you in and punish you.
Yeah, and even though Dolidze won his last fight and he dominated the second round from the top position, he looked more tired than his opponent getting back to his feet, and I don't think that was a short notice fight, and this one is.
Yeah.
That's my thought going into this one, is that Dolidze is absolutely capable of getting his hands on Trevin Giles and throwing him around and beating him up.
Yeah.
Finding his, like, the other thing as well is those left high kicks, they are fast and they are powerful. And because he's not throwing them to necessarily land to finish, they're very good for him setting up his punches. Whereas Trevin Giles tends to lunge in with his punches. Might be able to bounce a kick off his arm and then come in with a punch behind it and catch it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just the gas tank. It just keeps coming into my mind.
John Allen found some holes in. He found some space to land some strikes, didn't he? And you know, if Giles can do that, I mean, there's space there to land. You know what I mean? There's enough space in there that if he can get a couple of combinations together, you know, he could do some damage. But you sort of feel like Roman's going to get his hands on him, and he could ragdoll him around the octagon for as long as he wants to, really, couldn't he?
Yeah,
he's that
for as long
archetype.
as his gas tank holds up. I'm just looking to see if that last fight that he took was on short notice. I don't think it was. Like, he dominated that second round. He got a lovely double leg takedown, got himself into half guard, and then was just smashing his opponent to bits. But he was tired when he got back to his feet at the end of that round.
Yeah.
And I mean, and I look at his record, and there are a lot of first round finishes. Like, he beat Ibragimov first round, 2, 3, 4, 5 first round finishes out of 8 fights. You know, maybe he's not got to that lungs bleeding stage in a fight yet. And that last one against John Allen he's also not had that was his first decision as well. So
is Giles durable enough to?
He went the distance with, what's his name? James Krause. I know Krause was coming up a weight class, taking it on short notice, but
he did, didn't he?
Krause
that was a decent pace as well, wasn't it?
Skilled and lively, and he stopped Bevan Lewis in the third round as well. So he's maintaining that power. He did drop Bevan Lewis with a wicked jab. Now that's going to be a different setup because obviously he's fighting a southpaw this time around in Dolidze, so he's going to have to be very, very cautious of reaching too far and getting countered with that left high kick because it's coming to his open side in this fight.
Yeah, I mean, it's close, isn't it? I'm not quite sure which way to pick. You know, I can easily see.
Did you make picks lower down the card?
No,
you didn't. You just glossing over them.
You just glossed over them.
Just because you're not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure on this one. You know, like I was saying, you can easily see Dolidze ragdoll him a little bit, but I definitely feel like there's space for Giles to pick him apart a little bit. Might go that way, you know.
Yeah,
might go that way.
Yeah. I could see it. I think the longer the fight goes, the more it favours Giles. And the fact that Dolidze is coming in on short notice, and everybody around the world, it's not even like people aren't training. It's like a lot of people can't train.
Yeah,
you know, we don't know what he's been doing as far as his training goes because his gym might be closed.
We got 2 people basically on rotation. 2 guys come in next day, a different 2 guys come in. It's like, you know,
it's not ideal for anybody, is it?
Not at all. No.
So at least.
You know, we won't be too far away, hopefully.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But in the current situation, Dolidze is taking a fight on short notice and he may not have been able to train a great deal. Well, I mean, Darren Stewart was doing most of his training in the park, wasn't he? That's what he was saying on his walkout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. Let's. I I mean, we don't have to lock it in anymore, but we
No,
can, we
do what we like now.
Yeah, do anything we want. So Santos Dawson, next up.
Yeah.
That's next up.
I still think you should make picks.
Okay, we'll make picks. We'll go with Trevor and Giles.
Okay.
Keeps me at least vaguely accountable to something in my life.
I just need your picks recorded so I can take the piss out of you next week when they're wrong.
That's not an American phrase, you know. Someone said we said that before, taking the piss, and the Americans didn't get it.
No, I had a friend that always used to think it was taking a piss.
Right.
And you don't want to take a piss out of someone.
No.
I mean, unless you're into that kind of thing.
Yeah,
it's not that kind of podcast.
Different
We're not
podcast.
Going That's the Owen Oxley kind of podcast.
Yeah, we'll bring that back. Bring that back on Full Reptile Radio. I'm way too highbrow for that.
You are way too highbrow. This should be called Sophisticuffs.
Nice.
Grant Dawson against Leo Santos. So like I said, when I was at Nova and Yao, I didn't recognise Santos because of how big he was. The other thing I will say that he is one of the most inconsistent fighters on the roster when it comes to the regularity of his competition.
Mate, 11 times in 10 years.
He's had a lot of injuries and he's had a lot of opponents pull out. I was just looking at his Tapology record today. So like he came through the Ultimate Fighter Brazil season 2. Made his official UFC debut in 2013. And then he had a couple of fights, had one cancelled. Łukasz Sajewski pulled out. Then he had another fight, and then Matt Wyman pulled out. Then he had a fight against Kevin Lee, and then Evan Dunham pulled out, and then pulled out again.
KO'd Kevin Lee, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then he had another fight, and then 2 other opponents pulled out, Aubin Mercier and Nick Lentz. I think one of those was hit. It's just he's had injuries, and his opponents have been pulling out as well. And it's affected his consistency. I mean, when he's been in there and he's like the Kevin Lee fight, first round stoppage was very impressive. And that knockout of Stevie Ray
I know.
was...
Yeah.
I mean, he was surprised. He went sprinting off into the dressing rooms.
Like winning the fights the way he's winning with the pedigree he's already got on the ground. He's starting to shape that whole game, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like you would think he's completely capable and competent on the ground with that backstory.
Oh, he's very good on the ground. It's definitely without a doubt the strongest part of his game is his Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, which is a funny matchup for Grant Dawson because he likes that top position. He'll go in and he'll wrestle hard. Four of his last 6 are subs.
Yeah, and he's like Grant Dawson to me is like the new school MMA fighter. Like he's confident in the striking range, no matter whether it's at long range with kicks or at close range with clinch work and striking. He's got good takedowns. He's great in scrambles. He's conditioned well. Works to the top position as much as he can, as quickly as he can, and has got the ability to endure and to escape submissions and to keep going and to, you know what I mean?
Man, he dug deep against Minna.
Did he not? I mean, it was like...
there was a point in that fight and the camera pans in and Minna had been chasing submissions for
it was just after he'd passed the guillotine, yeah.
And you could just see it in his face. He's like, oh, God, I'm so screwed now. I can't get my...
Yeah.
Like, everybody that has grappled knows exactly what he was thinking at that point. Just the way his eyes were. You're like, oh, I know, man, I know, I get it.
That's how people end up getting Von Flue choked.
Yeah.
Because they're like, I'm just going to wait for a minute. Because he had him in a guillotine, didn't he? And he was like, he was fully extending his neck. You could see all the stretching.
He cranked on his neck for minutes at a time, didn't he?
Yeah. But then Dawson scrambles to top position, gets to side control, and he defended a couple of arm bars as well as a few guillotines.
I mean, he doesn't stop there, does he?
No,
if he's not throwing something, he's throwing something else up.
And I think this is where he causes Leo Santos problems, because like Leo Santos is 41.
Yeah, no, I've got written down it's the young buck against the old experienced head. But
it's like, I mean, 18-3-1. He's not had a lot of fights for his age, especially when you consider, Overeem's a similar age.
Yeah.
Like, because he's been out a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And it's not...
He's like not took damage, but he's clearly took damage because he's been injured a lot, but he hasn't took maybe, accumulated cognitive damage over the years.
Cognitive damage, no, but physical damage, absolutely, yes. Like
I'm assuming it's knees and shoulders, and
I would think so.
Yeah.
And he's another person that he cuts a massive amount of weight to get to lightweight,
Right.
and I think that's done him a disservice over his career.
I think he'll need it against Grant though, because he comes in big, doesn't he?
Yeah, he
Miss
does.
weight a couple of times, I think.
He does.
I think his last two maybe at catch weight actually.
Is that right?
I think so.
Santos made his MMA debut, like, was it 2002 against Gomi. Made his debut in 2002 against Gomi. He's been fighting a long time.
That was a lifetime ago, isn't it?
But he also probably started as a lightweight, and he's always been... Yeah, he did. He's always been a lightweight. So what's that? 2002. That's 19 years ago. So he was... What was he? 18?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can... Like, he should not be the same weight now as he was when he was that age. But he's kept himself in that weight class, even though he's been up and heavy.
Yeah.
I thought he was a middleweight when I saw
Just
it.
can't let go of it.
And
he likes that weight. He likes that weight advantage.
And you've got to wonder whether that's a part of the reason why he's been injured. You know, is because like his body's not having the time to recover and repair in ways that it would if he had the right calorific intake for his body.
I mean, I've no idea whether the PI are looking at this at all, but we always bounce back to this. I wonder what the injury rate is if you just find your natural weight and you cut a little bit to make it into that weight class, but you're within decent parameters to the weight you walk around at.
Yeah,
I would imagine it'd be very hard for them to actually look at that and get some stats, but they've definitely got the resources. Maybe it's something they've thought about, or at least hypothesized about whether they're advising that to their athletes. It'd be interesting.
That last fight against that Santos had against Bogotov, he almost had him out of there in that second round. Like, he was pouring the pressure on, like tied his hands up, hammer fists. When he was on the feet, he was cracking him with big shots. Just didn't seem to have enough to put him away, but gassed himself out trying to put him away. And that again is my concern with him going in against Grant Dawson, is he might throw everything at him. He might think he's got a sub in the first round and give it everything. He might think he's got him hurt in the second round and give it everything. And then Grant Dawson will still be there.
4 times world champion jiu-jitsu guys going to blow themselves out on subs though.
What's his name did? Rodolfo Vieira.
Oh my God, didn't he? What an awful statement.
That's why I'm here.
Yes, they absolutely would do that. Clearly, because he nearly died of cardiovascular failure. That's how bad he blew himself out. Correct, Dan.
He nearly gave himself a dad of 5,000.
You on your recent knowledge. Yes, that can very, very likely.
That absolutely happens. Yeah, that would be a concern of mine for him. Is that Grant Dawson is supremely conditioned and very strong.
So I can see this as Dawson's to win.
Yeah, it's a big win for him if he gets it, though.
Yeah. Santos is a bit sharp with his hands. He's a bit sharper than Dawson, I think, with his hands.
Yeah, I would say that. But I also think that like that knockout over Stevie Ray was rather uncharacteristic of Santos. You know, I mean, I know he's got that stoppage over Kevin Lee, but I've not. Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm underestimating him. He's just there's not like that physical presence to him that you see with Grant Dawson. Like, Dawson's standing, he's ready to go. He's got his high guard.
He does seem new. He does seem the new school, doesn't he?
Yeah.
It does seem like the new. You know, that the quadrant we talk about of the athlete is, is well and truly developed.
Yeah,
he's in a good spot physically.
Yeah, like sharpened everywhere.
Yeah,
like a good striker, well balanced striking skills. Knows he's got takedowns if he needs them. Good sub defense as well as a hell of a pace.
Yeah,
I think this could be a really, really impressive win for Grant Dawson. And I think the weight of the name of Leo Santos goes a long way in this division, because even though he has been inconsistent, when he does fight, people know how good he is. But yeah, I've just been very impressed with Grant Dawson so far.
Yeah, cool. Well,
I like his linear approach. I mean, he got 7 rear naked chokes out of 16 wins. You know, and you don't need to be a world jiu-jitsu champion to get a rear naked choke on a world jiu-jitsu champion.
No. And I mean, like, there's a lot of world champions there's a lot of elite that become sub-elite once you put punching in there, you know, quickly, acutely as well.
Yeah.
like acting elite and then suddenly seem sub elite with a game.
Yep.
You know that we know that's we know that's a thing we talk about a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. We'll see.
Which way
Grant
you go?
Dawson.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see how we go.
Reneau against Chiasson.
Well, you can have a look at pick show 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 because we've addressed it in every single one of them. I think. How many times has this been put off?
I know. It's been
And we disagree, don't you? Think Chiasson's gonna win this? I know I leant towards Reneau with her experience.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I think Chiasson's got the physicality and the skills to be a problem. I just don't know as she's very good at measuring distance. She's very good at walking people down and being the bigger, longer, rangier fighter. But I don't know. I've not seen the confidence that she needs to back it up against someone like Marion Reneau, who's got good experience on the ground.
She knows her game.
Yeah, exactly.
Marion knows the game. She knows what she's going to do. And if a game's not good enough, it's probably not good enough. She's 40, 41.
Yeah, she's in her 40s.
You know, she's at that stage of her career. Her game is, it's probably her game.
Yeah, but her game is good. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, she black belt. Well skilled on the floor. Always had a rough run in the UFC. Always fought tough opposition.
Yeah,
I actually think Reneau might grapple.
We went through her list, didn't we? Last couple of times. It's an impressive experience resume for sure.
And people aren't stopping her. She's coming off 3 losses: Pennington, Kunitskaya, and Zingano, and they're all decision losses.
That's the thing in it. When you get to a certain level of experience, we've said before, you become tougher to finish because you're just wily, aren't you? You've seen the pictures, and you know where safety is.
Yeah.
You find it easier.
That's it. If Macy Chiasson's smart in this one, she'll go back and she'll watch the Holly Holm fight against Reneau, and she'll have a similar kind of game because Reneau, like Holly Holm, obviously is very very side on. She uses that lead side kick a lot to maintain distance. And what she highlighted in that fight is that Reneau does stand quite square. Like there's a square target in her midsection which she could be utilising. And I would say Chiasson doesn't even need to use kicks necessarily. She could just mix up her long range striking because she has got. What's her reach? She has got a really long reach.
She's definitely very long and awkward.
Yeah, 72-inch reach, 5'11", compared to Marion Reneau, who is. This laptop's not fast enough for my brain. Yeah, 68-inch reach. So she's got a 4-inch, 5-inch reach, right, 5-inch height advantage, and a 4-inch reach advantage over her.
Got you. Yeah. I can't pick any other way than Marion. Since I picked her twice already.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is 33. There is going to be a point where you have that downturn, and she's facing a 29-year-old who's probably improving very, very quickly.
Sort of peaking it.
Yeah, Fortis MMA as well. Good team, good gym, good people around her.
Yeah.
I mean, she was tied up by Alina Landsberg. That's the only loss on her record. And Landsberg held her up against the fence and used good head pressure and good striking skills, close range. Marion Reneau might take a lot of confidence from that performance. I often, when I'm researching, I'll look at who they're facing, and then I'll go back into their career and find someone that's got a similar kind of style. And I think that Chiasson could learn a lot from the Holly Holm fight, and I think that Reneau could learn a lot from Chiasson against Landsberg. But the good thing is that Macy Chiasson's had that experience, so you would hope that she's found solutions to that by now.
Yeah.
So you're going with Reneau, are you?
Yeah, I'll go with Reneau. Yeah. Man, this next one.
Yeah, this is good.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
This is going to be fireworks, isn't it?
So Montserrat Ruiz was the 10th Planet Brown belt you were talking about, right?
Yeah.
A bit earlier on.
Yeah.
She's a firecracker. Man. She's comes
aggressive.
In, chin tucked, throwing bombs into the tie clinch, big knees to the midsection, and then she's got that head and arm throw.
The scarf hold throw. Yeah.
It's really, really nice. Yeah. Very risky.
Yeah, I know, and she doesn't always pull it off. A couple of times, I can't remember who she fought last. Whoever she fought last, a couple of times, she did get it in the end. Yeah. And I think she actually finished it with a scarf.
Yeah, she did. A key lock
from the scarf hold, yeah. But 3 or 4 times she didn't pull that takedown off from the scarf hold. Yeah. And it is you're so susceptible to get your back top there.
Yeah. But then, again,
she's so aggressive.
10th Planet, she might go head and arm throw, and if it fails and she gives her back, she might be straight onto an ankle.
Yeah.
She might be straight onto a knee bar or whatever. like we don't know what the rest of her game is, but the fact that she's confident with that means that she's done it over and over again in the gym, and when it's not happened, she's had an alternative.
She's got a backup. Yeah,
I'd be interested to see if it doesn't work and see what she goes to from it. But she's short and she's short and she's powerful. Yeah, 61-inch reach, and she's 5 foot. But then the range that she fights at, she's a little powerhouse, isn't she? A little bit Jessica Andrade.
Yeah,
but in the way that she moves into the striking range. But then I would say she's, maybe not quite as physically imposing.
No,
but certainly very technical on the floor. That key lock was from Scarfold was nice.
Yeah, painful as well.
Yeah,
Cheyenne Bays is not submissive. She's super aggressive anyway. So you're gonna get two firecrackers calling each other, I think.
Strong top position player, which plays perfectly into Montserrat Ruiz, who's 10th planet. Like, it might even get to the stage where Ruiz closes distance, quickly throwing bombs and knees. Cheyenne Bays clinches her and takes her down, and there's no resistance from Ruiz because she's quite happy to work from her back. It wouldn't surprise me at all. And like, Cheyenne Bays might be underestimating how slickly she is off her back. She's a brown belt in 10th planet. She's been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
You know, and Cheyenne Bays, the other thing you have to consider is she's the second fight of the night for her marriage. You know, like, if that first fight doesn't go very well for her husband, that might be in the back of her mind. You don't know.
It'd be hard not to have some kind of emotional tie to the result of that one way or another. But then conversely, if it goes well, she might, feel super empowered and go use that energy.
Yeah.
She was angry on the Contender Series in that fight. She was there. That was a fight.
It was.
That's gonna be a great matchup.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. 5-1 against 9-1.
I'm swayed. I think I'm swayed towards Montserrat because
of how aggressive she is.
Because of how aggressive she is, yeah. She's just gonna, if she doesn't win, she'll go out on a shield, won't she?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I honestly, she's got more experience. She's been competing at a decent level over in Invicta, so I don't think she's gonna be. It's a UFC debut, right? Yeah. I think she might come over and be very, very impressive. She's just coming off that win over Moranjan, who's 10-3 as well. So she's, again, she's fighting fighters that have got experience.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, we'll go with Ruiz.
Okay. Max Griffin, Song Kenan.
Well, I used my insider contacts on this.
Of course you did.
And all I got back was, every question I asked was, he's a beast.
Yeah.
How's he in the gym? He's a beast. He's a beast. He's a beast. How do you think he's going to go? He's a beast.
And I'm assuming that's Dean saying that, Dean which means that he's a beast.
PR, yeah.
Yeah.
He lost to Brad Riddle, didn't he?
He did outside the UFC.
Yeah. Further up the card.
But then, he came in and he's like, I think I called his first three.
You definitely called.
In fact, I think I might have called all of them, to be honest. But Bobby Nash, 15 seconds. Then Hector Aldana, that was a war, but he still managed to stop him at the end of the second. Lost to Morono, got a bit drowned in that one, which, could happen with Max Griffin, although Griffin prefers to be on the outside. And then Krantz, another tough striker with a lot of experience in Callum Potter.
At one stage, he benched Callum Potter off him.
Yeah.
He just went...
Yeah, move.
Get off. You're like, can't do that.
Yeah.
He did something like, I think he bridged someone off him in another fight as well, and it was just like, you don't see that very often. That's sort of what you see on the mat at training sometimes with amateurs almost. You don't really see that escape. You just like, get off.
No.
Yeah, a lot of power. And again, speaking to the PI guys there, in their mind, he's the perfect anthropometry of a welterweight. Perfect shape, perfect lean mass. Everything is just how it's supposed to be. And he's a big dude, isn't he?
He is.
He's a big dude. I think he's got the edge physically. I think he's probably got the edge on Griffin. But I do like the way Griffin moves. He's very elastic, and he
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the way he moves.
No, I just mean from a physical point of view, though.
He moves a lot.
Elastic bounce.
Yeah.
You can comment on whether that's wasted movement or not, but he's reactive and he's kind of quick.
Yeah, I always watch Griffin and feel like he's going to be better than he is. Like there's a lot of movement and he's got a very, very awkward timing. He doesn't move like other people. Like his movement patterns for his strikes they're not the regular, clean, polished. These are the paths that my strikes follow. He's a bit kind of a bit herky jerky and a bit kind of odd timing, and sometimes he'll bounce into range at wrong times and get cracked with a punch.
Yeah.
Like I think sometimes a fighter can move too much when they don't know exactly what they're doing.
So
like,
it's funny.
Kenan
so that
doesn't do that.
That like herky jerky movement we've seen it through the years, haven't we? We've seen there's a few people that have come in and out. A ridiculously good looking guy I can think of, Keith someone. He was it, and it causes problems. It's a different puzzle for people to figure out, but they very rarely get to the top. They're very rarely the champ, because the way of doing it to some degree is the way it's supposed to be done, because that's the most efficient way of doing it. And the odd timing and the unorthodox nature of people does cause a short-term problem, but people figure it out, or they tune into that timing a little bit and they can overcome that problem.
Yeah.
And like even if you look at Max's record, it's as up and down as his movement,
Yeah, he's 6-4 in the UFC.
Yeah,
and
struggled with the top. He struggled with the top.
4 and 6.
The elite guys. He struggles anytime he goes up against the elite guys. He struggles a bit, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. But at the same time, I would say that there's some guys in here that aren't quite elite either that he still struggles with. Obviously his last fight against Ruiz and that nasty ear injury.
Yeah,
that was a result of a well-timed right hand that just caught him on the side of the head and did the damage to the cauliflower ear. But up to that point, he was taking a lot of shots that he didn't need to take. Like, it's a high risk style because I don't think that the style's fully developed. Yeah, I think he's got movement, and I think he's got skills and power and athleticism, and I think he's got a good understanding of some techniques. I don't think there's an overall plan to it though, which is why sometimes he bounces into range and gets clipped.
Yeah,
he's a bit. I'll throw this technique, and then he jumps in and throws it, and then gets caught on the way out. So he can't do that with Song Kenan.
They're almost opposites of each other, aren't they?
Kenan will wait.
Kenan is concise and controlled and seems like he's got a plan in place and doesn't have any of that necessarily the variety in terms of randomness. And then Griffin is, yeah.
We're seeing that a lot more now though, especially with the development of calf kicks. Like people are actually taking their time walking into range now, and they kind of. They posture and they change their posture instead of bouncing in and out all the time.
Yeah,
and there's so much energy wasted from that, especially if there's not a reason for it. Like you've got to be on your toes in this fight. Is a game plan. It's not a preset.
So I don't know whether people enjoy the cross sport references or not, but for years we talked about. So you get a GPS reading of how far you covered in a game. And some of our best players would have the lowest readings. And, there could be certain coaches that make a case for them not working hard enough because they're not done enough. And my point was always, they're just more efficient. They aren't wasting their time running over there when they've already seen 3 plays ahead. They're just going to wait here, and then the ball comes to them anyway. And they do what they do that makes them the best in the sport. And similar thing, it's not, if it becomes efficiency of movement, because your physical characteristics, and it'd be interesting to see what happens in the next 20 years in this sport. Everyone's physical characteristics are going to get to their genetic max. We're going to weed out all the guys that don't have the right genes for it, and we'll get to a point where everyone is really well conditioned, really fast, really strong, really powerful, and it will ultimately come down to technical and tactical. It always comes down to that. Eventually,
yeah. So I feel like this, Kenan's got fight changing power with one shot, and I think with the way that Max Griffin constantly bounces in and out of range, Song's going to be stationary, waiting, and he's going to get that rhythm down.
Trapdoor spider.
And as he jumps into range, he's going to back crack him and put him down. And I mean, it's 4-6 in the UFC, Max Griffin. I just don't think he's ever really fully found his feet or realised his potential. You know, I mean, that last fight was his first, I think it was his first stoppage in the UFC, wasn't it? Oh no, he got Eric Montano back in 2016. He's been in the UFC a long time. Made his debut at UFC 202. But it's, you know, 1 win, 1 loss, 1 win, 2 losses, 1 win, 2 losses, and he's winning by decision. Yeah. I mean, that ear injury as well, that was a fairly even fight up to the point where he wrecked that guy's ear.
Yeah.
I think this is Son Kenan's fight to lose, to be honest. I think, I think he's quite a special athlete. I'm
going with the factory product from that Shanghai super gym.
The China manufacturing.
Yeah.
MMA manufacturers.
If they say he's good, chances are he's pretty good.
Yeah.
They bring out a new journal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you remember the first journal?
What, from their studies?
Yeah, there's a second journal coming out. It's going to be, it's going to be a special document. If I was in a better mood about that organisation, I'd say more. It's still going to be a very useful document for the sport. Yeah. Very much so.
This next one is, we've got a Jimmy Gifford trained fighter in Gustavo Lopez. You'll see Giff.
Oh, he's also the brown belt. Is
that right?
10th Planet.
Okay. So is he 10th Planet Vegas then? Because he trains out of Extreme Couture, doesn't he? The Jimmy represents his Extreme Couture.
Right.
That last win over Burchak, that Reneau Kicho was beautiful.
Gustavo, he's game, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
He had a banger with Dashvili.
But then the other thing I will say though, and I was watching Adrian Yanez yesterday, and he is, not only from his photo on Tapology, but the way he fights, the way he stands, he's very much a young Masvidal.
Right.
He's very much a young Masvidal. He's got look at that photo on Tapology.
Yeah.
For a start. Yeah. Looks like him. And I remember
give him a Chanel
gown.
Gown.
A big beard. I remember looking at that photo when I was looking up his record thinking, God, he looks like Masvidal. And then I put on his last fight and he's got that kind of front foot, tight guard, but he will bounce out and give himself some space, but that's his aggressive stance.
He was excellent against Rodriguez.
He was really good.
He was excellent, I thought.
Really good.
Fast, in and out, good angles. I thought it was, man. I thought it was good. This is going to be a great fight.
And cut Rodriguez down really nicely up against the fence. So he was punching him, and then as Rodriguez was starting to try and peel out to the sides, he threw that head kick and caught him on the way.
Yeah. He dealt with some wrestling that he's going to have to deal with in this fight, but he did deal with it.
Yeah, for sure. I think Rodriguez is going to be the taller fighter as well, isn't he? Or longer reach. 5'7". Yes. Yeah. No. Yeah. Yanez is the taller, longer range fighter. He's got a couple inches in height and reach. I think exactly the same as that. I think he's gonna have to deal with some takedowns in this fight. I think he's gonna have to, and he has good takedowns up against the fence, which is what we saw in his last fight. Even his takedown defense reminded me of Masvidal. It was weird. It was he's front foot heavy, kind of a tight high guard, leans his chin slightly to one side like Masvidal does. Same thing when he's up against the fence. He's got that kind of casual look on his face, and it was weird how similar he was to him. Almost as if you go into a gym and you watch a young kid and you can see the coach is you can see Masvidal's his favourite fighter. It was almost like that.
I mean, you see it, right? You see it in Brothers, for sure. You see it in Brothers, and you see it in Coach.
Well, look at the Diaz brothers.
Yeah.
I mean, Nate is
Dean
practically
Adam throws his right hand exactly the same as Dean did, and Jimmy has coached a couple of things into Josh, and you're just like, that's Jimmy.
Yeah.
But
it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that's I'd be interested to know if he's a fan of Masvidal, because there are just so many similarities in his movement, stance, and posture, and that head kick was very, very impressive. I'm excited. I think that might be one of the show stealers on the fight. That and the co-main event.
Yeah.
That and the co-main event. Which way are you going? Are you taking Lopez?
I'm going Yanez. I think he's a touch. Sharper.
Yeah.
And I think like we said, I think he's going to have to deal with some wrestling and basically get him off him. But I think he's a touch sharper and he could light him up with his hands a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heavyweights. So this was interesting watching this because you've got Tai Tuivasa just coming off that win over Stefan Struve, who's a tall, long-range fighter that actually would rather grapple.
Yeah.
And then Dontel Mayer's last fight against Rock Williams was like a...
How are you going to say this?
like a shorter, more rotund gentleman.
Yes,
that,
exactly.
that would much rather stand and train. Yeah.
Yeah. They've fought the mirror.
Yeah, already. They've both kind of got a game plan in place. I mean, you know what Tai Tuivasa's going to do. He's going to do what Mark Hunt did to every tall person that he fought. He tries to punch their head over the top of the octagon. So he's going to back him up. He's going to control the centre really well. And then he's going to come launching bombs over the top. And Dontel Mays is going to try and skirt around the outside of the octagon and look very, very cramped and uncomfortable and then start to try and grapple with him.
It's an archetype of fight you see quite a lot, isn't it? I think Mayers is a touch more, has a touch better movement and a bit more athletic than a few people that Tai has fought. I mean, he'd make a great back row forward in rugby. 6'6" and 110 kilos and relatively lean. It'd be a good footy player.
He's 6'6", isn't he?
Yeah.
So he's the kind of fighter that he's made to look very uncomfortable in the small octagon
cramped
at the apex.
I don't know. You might not know who this is, but before Tai got to the UFC, he fought John Haqparast.
Right.
And John Haqparast is the single most banned rugby league player in history.
Is that right?
And the last thing he got banned for was sticking two fingers up someone's butty in the middle of a televised game. He got caught on the bottom of a tackle and just went, and he got banned for 10 years.
I mean, that sounds
Hilarious.
like Tai Tuivasa's best friend. That does right there.
Well, yeah.
I mean the videos that he was posting from Fight Island where he'd pissed the bed from drinking too much.
Yeah,
he's a different type of person entirely.
He's a funny. He's a funny dude, man.
He is hilarious.
He's a very funny dude. Look, we before we got on air, we were talking about. I think like he would be deadly at light heavyweight.
Yeah.
You think he would be the single most miserable person in the world if you made him cut to light heavyweight?
100%.
But I've sort of, again, without generalising, I've seen it before in rugby players, footy players. If you dropped him, you dropped a few kilos to him, the power would stay. Yeah, the power stay. I've seen it. So we had a.
But hang on a minute. Just before we say that, what did he weigh in at when he fought Stefan Struve? Do you know? Because I have a feeling it was 265 pounds.
Wow.
You got to get 60 pounds off him to get him to light heavyweight.
I know, but
it's not happening. A bit there. He's not happening.
What is 265 in kilo in real weight? Do you have to get the calculator out?
You'll have to get your calculator out. It's 2.2, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know everything up to 205, so 205 is 93 kilos.
I can't even find my calculator right now. Mate, we had, what did we say, 265?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
120 kilos.
Yeah.
There's plenty of space. In there. Mate, we had a Samoan rugby player who was 120 kilos, really? Alessandro Tuolangi. And
get him on the Volkanovski diet. I mean, he was 240 at one point, right?
I mean, look, he was 120 kilos and he was a good player. I worked with him and we got him down to between 113 and 115 and he was the player of the year.
Yeah.
He won the player of the year that year. It was contract year though.
Right.
So that does tend to motivate people more than usual, but the power stayed and I don't think it'll ever happen. I don't think he would want to do that. And
he'd just be so unhappy.
But he's not, yeah. But he's not lighting that division up, do you know what I mean? He's a big problem, obviously, because of the amount of power he generates and the fact that he likes to get in there and he's skilled. I don't mean to suggest that he doesn't. He's just a powerful human. He has no skill. He obviously has some skills and he looks like he works incredibly hard. I just think there's some space in there to...
In his defence, I'll say this. So and it reminds me a lot of, Justin Taffo fought on Fight Island recently. Like, he was 4-0 when he signed with the UFC because there's no one to fight.
No. Oh, so, mate, there is in Australia.
Yeah, but apparently not at heavyweight. I mean, you look at Taito Avasa's record.
Playing rugby.
Well, yeah, there you go. So he's got, his first, what is it, his first 7 fights before he signed with the UFC were all first round stoppages, aside from, he had a kickboxing fight, which was a second round loss. But everyone was stopped first round. And the last person he fought before he signed with the UFC was James McSweeney, who's a good kickboxer and an Ultimate Fighter veteran. But then he got Rashad Coulter, stopped him with a flying knee in the first round. Then he stopped Cyril Asker just over 2 minutes, and then he got Andrei Arlovsky. So he stepped into the Arlovsky fight at 9-0, fighting someone who was 27-15. Like, the expectations of Taito Avasa, especially given the fact that he was a Mark Hunt training partner, were so high. Then you look at his MMA career, and he's 7-0 before he signs with the UFC, and you think, oh, well, we need to up-level his competition. So then he gets 3 guys, culminating with an Andrei Arlovsky fight, and then you give him Junior Dos Santos next. And it was like Dos Santos, Ivanov, and Spivak.
I would Spivak.
I would say that the Spivak fight probably wouldn't have been a loss had he not had those 2 setbacks previously. And I think his confidence took a hit after the JDS fight. He was taken down and he was held down and he was frustrated and couldn't get back up, which is not a situation he'd been in before. Yeah. And I think he had 3 back-to-back losses, turned a corner, came back against Stefan Struve and punched his head over the octagon.
He still trains with Tyson Pedro?
I believe so. Yeah.
I like their
but they
crew.
spend a lot of time in Thailand, don't they?
Yeah, I like their crew. I follow Tyson. I follow both of them on Instagram. I like, how hard this is for me to say. I like their strength and conditioning team.
That is very hard for you to say.
I really like. I just seen clips here and there, but it just seemed very calculated, and I was like, oh, okay, you guys, you got it going on here.
I remember watching a lot of Tyson Pedro's rehab stuff that he was doing for his knee and thinking, oh, okay, it's...
Yeah, it just seemed like
not
I was like
hopping on a skateboard and
a couple of little bits. I was like, all right, you guys, you got that sorted out. I like that. Well done.
Yeah.
You know what? I can't remember the gym or the company that they're using, but I was impressed with them. Yeah, very good.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah.
I think Taito Avasa's, I think his fight IQ is much, much better than people will give him credit for.
I think so, the people surrounding him.
I just do. I just think like the way he moves, the way he set up Stefan Struve, like he tested that shot before he threw it to knock him out. And like most of the time, someone that's got knockout power, they won't test.
Relies on that.
Yeah, they won't test it. Justin Gaethje against James Vick, he tested the punch that he knocked him out with 20 seconds before he knocked him out with it. It's very rare that you see a fighter do that. And like I saw that with Taito Avasa. And if you're on the mat regularly with Mark Hunt, whether he still is or you just go back to the time that he spent with him, there's got to be days when he walked off the mat and he's like, why'd you keep hitting me with that? And Mark Hunt will be like, well, it's because you kept dropping your hand every time I threw a right up to the body. You're like, oh, you were setting me up for it. And he'll get so many more of those light bulb moments sparring with a guy like Mark Hunt.
Yeah, how old is he?
Ty?
Yeah.
He's 28.
I mean, for heavyweights, that's like coming into your prime, really,
all the time in the world. Yeah, he could have another 10 years in this division and be a champ at 38.
Yeah. I like him.
Unless he keeps pissing the bed, and then they just won't bring him to the hotels anymore.
No.
He is.
You're gonna have to leave your credit card behind me. Behind reception, please.
That's all right.
Yeah, like I've picked Ty. I want him. I want him back on the.
It's definitely
in the win
his
column.
fight to lose. I think.
Yeah, I like it.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
I mean, Dontel Mays has definitely got, like you said, he's got all the physical attributes of a high level athlete, and I do think that he's got. He showed good takedowns and good top control against Rock, and it's Rock Martinez, not Williams. I don't know where that's come from.
I don't think he moves his head enough, and if he doesn't move his head against Ty
will move it for him.
Ty's going to move it for him.
Ty will move it for him. Yeah. But he also knows what he's up against with Taito Avasa. He could be clinching, working knees to the body, force Ty to work at a range that's really uncomfortable for him, and lean on the fact that he is taller, like stand high. Make Ty really work to throw those shots uphill.
Yes, I mean his profile said he was 110 kilos. You'd think he'd be close to 115, 16 probably coming into this, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
He wouldn't want that.
Mays.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what he weighed in at last time out. He was at 162, so he was only £3 below the limit anyway. But then, pace might suit him in this one. It's still only a 3-round fight, though, so there's only so much you can do with that. I do think it's Ty's fight to lose, though. This co-main event...
Oh, my God.
Let me just check we're still recording. That battery's going to die soon, but we're doing all right.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be fun. This might be the one from the card, mightn't it?
Striker grappler, though, isn't it? It's like old school in that way.
Like proper grappler.
Yeah. You could have put this on UFC 48.
Still the same,
and it's
still the same archetype,
same kind of thing going on. Like Brad Riddell, hard-nosed striker, long stance, rounded back, chin down. I don't know how he's not got a finish in the UFC so far because, like, sitting octagon side, hearing the power in his shots.
Because he's thick too. Like he almost got Thai legs. Like he's got big, thick trunk legs.
Yeah.
And he's I mean, I was sort of going to ask you, like, what's going on? When I watch him, he seems technically exceptional.
Yeah.
But he's not getting the finishes.
He's from interviewing him fight week and from watching him fight, there's an emotion in him that I think does him a disservice.
Okay.
I think sometimes he wants to fight to the point where he because like when you watch him holding pads, when you watch him coaching, you can clearly tell he's a very intelligent guy. He's got a real good understanding of the striking ranges, and when he's throwing, you can see that it's well drilled and skilled. So that the disconnect is the application. And I feel like the disconnect is maybe the emotion gets in the way of the thought process. So like with someone like Gregor Gillespie, the more he gets taken down, the more he gets frustrated, the less chance he's got of keeping this fight on the feet because he's going to be
overcommit.
Exactly. It'll be emotional trying to land those shots. And Gillespie, you've got to think he's coming off the first loss of his record, which was a bad knockout. So he's not going to want to mess with Brad Riddell's striking. Not a chance. Especially if he takes a couple of those low kicks from Riddell. And that lead leg for Riddell is very, very vulnerable to a low single as well because of how long he stands.
And then when the elite grapplers decide, I'm not having this, I'm grappling you, like it leaves the strikers a very small amount of space to work in, doesn't it? Because they're coming for it and they'll be relentless. And Gillespie is absolutely relentless, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, he does. He chains his takedowns together so well.
Oh man, he got slept by Kevin Lee so bad,
didn't he?
Didn't he?
But then you look at everybody else he's fought and he just rolled over them.
Yeah.
Just rolled over them. Yancy Medeiros, ground and pound. Vince Pichel, arm triangle. Jordan Rinaldi, ground and pound. Jason Gonzalez, arm triangle. It's like if he doesn't ground and pound you in the first, he's going to arm triangle you in the second. Yeah. And again, like Brad Riddell is technically very good. I think he's going to have good defensive work on the ground. I think he's going to have good escapes. I think his sub-defense will be good. I think he's going to be stubborn as a motherfucker as well. The more frustrated he gets, the more he bridges to escape, the more chance there is of him giving his back or reaching into an arm triangle.
I don't think it's a good look for him. I loved what man that fight against Ross Pearson's guy, Jamie Malarkey.
Oh, Malarkey.
It was insane.
An absolute war.
Insane. I'd be fascinated. I don't know if you ever spoke to Mark Goddard about it, but I would have thought it was almost one of his most difficult performances to ref because it looked like it should have been over. And then Malarkey would do something that wasn't just like a little bit of a movement. Like he'd double switch his hips. He'd switch one way, sit out, switch back the other way. You're like, how are you doing that?
I thought you were unconscious.
Yeah. Are you doing that subconsciously?
Yeah.
That fight was insane. And then did he finish it both kneeling? I think they were both kneeling.
Both kneeling, and then throwing punches. Loved it. Malarkey's that kind of fighter as well, though. He's a very much a Brad Riddell kind of fighter. He's like, come on, then, let's have it.
Proper like that. Like he wanted it even when it was like just about to get finished.
Yeah. But like even interviewing Brad Riddell in fight week though, he's not talkative. He doesn't like being there. He's not there because he wants to be a fighter, because he wants to be famous. He's there because you're paying him money to fight someone. And like he'll fight someone anyway. Or he'll take your money anyway.
Mercenary.
But if you'll pay him to fight someone, he'll be there and he'll answer the questions.
He's got a beautiful
through gritted teeth.
Like drift right hand.
Yeah.
where I don't know whether he does it off a jab or he does it off a feint jab, and then he'll drift and he'll throw that right hand over the top. And he caught Mustavev.
Yeah, Mustavev. Yeah,
He caught him with it and dropped him, I think. But Gregor's wrestling's another level.
Yeah, it is.
It's almost like in that, if your wrestling is another level, it almost swings it to the fact that your opposition has to do something special, because you're going to impart that you're going to get this wrestling game imparted on it, and it's on your opposition to do something special. Mm-hmm. That's how controlling wrestling is, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly that.
And Brad could do it, but I don't know.
He could do it. Like if I'm Brad Riddell coming into this one, if I'm his coach, I'm saying, okay, like, first of all, he didn't fight at all last year. So the last thing that's ringing around his head, literally, is Kevin Lee's foot.
Yeah.
So, like, the first thing he's going to think when he gets out there is, I could get knocked out again.
So 5 years, no losses.
5 years, no losses.
Bang.
Big
knocked
loss.
out.
Big loss. And then a year out.
Shattering for your confidence.
Yeah. Over a year out. I mean, it was September. No, hang on a minute. That's the wrong record. Gregor Gillespie. It was 2019. November of 2019 when he fought Kevin Lee.
I wonder why. Like, why? Is it any cancelled bouts?
No, nothing. No cancelled bouts at all. So I don't know whether it was because... I wonder if
it's associated with that, how bad that knockout was.
It could have been. It could be a psychological association or a physical association. It could have been his inability to train properly because of the pandemic. I just don't know. I mean, maybe he just wanted some time off. Maybe he just felt a bit burnt out from that, because the expectations of him were very, very high. He was coming into that fight undefeated at 12-0. He was already in the rankings. He is already in the rankings. Oh man,
I nearly flipped back then for a second.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, like, Brad Riddell hits hard, like he's mean, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like he's proper mean.
Exactly. Like if I'm,
and like he just catches him, and then suddenly like the crescendo effect of, oh my god, it's happening again. Yeah.
And then he's shooting from a distance when he shouldn't be shooting, and gives Brad an easier job of defending his takedowns because he's shooting out of panic.
It's a pain in the arse if he gets hold of you.
Yeah.
If he can manipulate him to the fence, and even if he has to take like a glancing shot to get hands on,
But that's the thing, is his willingness to take a glancing shot, especially when someone like Brad Riddell throws heavy for everything he throws. Like, if I'm Brad Riddell, I'm taking the centre straight away. I'm making him feel uncomfortable straight away. I'm pushing him back,
bully,
and I'm Caneloing him. I'm hitting him with hard shots, no matter where I'm hitting, and I'm fully expecting that he's going to follow one of these hard shots back with a takedown. And if his confidence goes because he's starting to take heavy shots and now he wants to wrestle, and then he starts failing takedowns because he's shooting out of panic, that then puts Brad Riddell in a much stronger situation. And how many times will Gillespie shoot and fail? Like, to get his hands on him, that's then comfort zone, and he can now start to then flow through. Whereas if, like, Brad Riddell, he's able to just completely shut those first couple of takedowns by making him shoot from a distance. Gives him a better chance to read it and to sprawl.
I wrote Gillespie down.
It's fight of the night, man. I'm telling you. I like really both guys. And I just hope they don't kind of cancel each other out, because Brad Riddell wants to strike and Gregor Gillespie doesn't want to give him any space to get up. So it's just he kind of nullifies him.
But feels his power and then does get the takedown, and then just holds him down for as long as he can.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Because he was very aggressive before the Kevin Lee fight on the ground. Once he got somebody on the ground, he would be
all over.
He'd be all over them. But then
that's ingrained in him. Do you know what I mean?
It
is. That's like, you're not. I don't know.
How much of it's hinging on confidence, though? Like, he might think, if I attack this, he's going to be able to scramble and get back up. Especially if he feels how strong Brad Riddell is.
Yeah.
And he is a very physically strong individual as well. You've seen that in his fights. He's been able to just throw people off at times. Which way you going?
Let's get Gregor Gillespie back on the win train.
All right. Main event.
Yeah.
Main event then. Derek Brunson, Kevin Holland.
So,
what's your first take? What's your pick straight off before we get into it?
Kevin Holland.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair.
And we talked about it. Well, literally, we've just talked about it. The unorthodox nature of some people, which he is very unorthodox and fast and very long. three things that sort of complement each other, is going to cause some problems. But it causes him problems in that I can never imagine him as the champ.
Holland? Is that because Adesanya is the current champ, though? Or is that just general?
Just the way, I just can't, he's too unpredictable to string together the amount of wins he's going to need to be the champ.
Okay, expand upon that.
Well, it's like we're sort of saying about the herky-jerky movement, although I do feel like he's one of the better ones that has unpredictable, unorthodox striking.
Yeah.
And I think the reason I think he's better is because of the other two factors that come into it, that he's quick and that he's long as well.
Okay.
So he punishes people more when they don't quite get his rhythm. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. Well, kind of like Darren Stewart, it was like Stewart, he was struggling to predict what he was doing, which meant he was getting caught with things, waiting to land his own shots.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. At the same time, I think there is a real strength in the way that he fights. And I think after seeing him stop Jacare with ground and pound from the bottom, like he's got that kind of ball and chain whipping power, which I think works really well from him being very loose. I mean, you look at Johnny Walker. I mean, I know Johnny Walker's kind of fell off a little bit, but the unpredictability and the angles that he was coming at was one of the things that made his game so good.
Yeah, the way he used that sling, that like the way you fashion your muscles, like sling across to like move his hips and whip that hand across to knock out Jacare was like.
It was weird, wasn't
it? Man,
very cool.
Like, have you ever seen that before?
No, not from that position. No, for sure, and not to generate that kind of power to make someone as good as Jacare sit back on their heels dazed.
But this is sort of what I was saying. With these unpredictable guys, you'll get magic moments, but are you going to get the routine things that make you a champ? You didn't get magic moments from GSP necessarily. You had, he was religiously good at the basics.
Yeah.
I
what are you saying? So, like,
I think he'll win this one.
Huh?
I think he'll win this fight.
Yeah,
I think there's enough.
Yeah.
Derek, well, there's enough space for him to do some serious damage. I just don't know whether, aside from this fight, whether he can run all the way to the title or not.
Yeah. See, it's like Derek Brunson's got power in his hands. Like we've seen that, and we've seen the power in his hands because he's committed to his strikes and he's thrown with everything he's got. Sometimes it's backfired. When he fought Whittaker, like he was all over Whittaker for the most part of that round. A couple of minutes, and then he left himself vulnerable and ran onto a shot. Now he's working with Henry Hooft. You can see that Hooft's kind of tidied things up and like trimmed the excess off a lot of his shots.
Lungy, isn't he?
Yeah, he's very lungy. Yeah. Part of the reason for that though is because of his wrestling pedigree. He is a good wrestler. He's a strong wrestler. That is the backup plan when his striking doesn't work. But then he came into the Adesanya fight and wanted to wrestle immediately and couldn't get the takedown, and then felt incredibly uncomfortable. You could see how uncomfortable he was, and I don't think he'd be any less comfortable standing in front of Kevin Holland if he can't take him to the floor. The difference being, if he's able to take Kevin Holland down, he's still not out of danger. Whereas if he'd have taken Adesanya down, he would have been. So it was very black and white in the Adesanya fight. It's like I either take him down and I'm okay, or I don't and I've got problems.
Yeah.
The Kevin Holland fight, I take him down and I've still got problems.
Yeah, it's just a different problem.
Strike him from the bottom, brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under Dave Terrell, who was a UFC champion as well.
Sorry to interrupt. Who did he put someone in a triangle and throw some elbows from the bottom? And it sounded like he was beating a drum.
Yeah,
It was like, ooh.
Yeah.
I can't remember who it was.
Let me see if I can look at his record.
He sort of got him in like a half triangle, like he could just about pop his head out of the triangle, couldn't he?
Yeah.
And he almost it was like whack-a-mole. He pretty much just whacked his head back out of the triangle.
Yeah. I don't remember which one it was. He had a lot of fights in the UFC still. I like Kevin Holland. I think there's a lot of dynamic ability to his game, which I think would make Derek Brunson really uncomfortable. Brunson, like even you go back to the Shabazian fight, and for the start of that fight, Shabazian was causing him problems. You could see Brunson was starting to look uncomfortable because he circles along the fence towards his left, and he's like trying to get away from his opponents. Then he'll lunge in a bit, or he'll throw his straight left, and then he'll clinch. But Shabazian was making him look very uncomfortable until he got to that top position, started landing ground and pound.
Yeah,
I definitely think Brunson's got the ability to, to get the fight to the floor. I don't think he's got the ability to nullify Kevin Holland when he's there. Because Holland will put himself in bad positions. He'll invert, he'll attack an ankle, he'll scramble to take the back, or he'll strike you from really odd positions, which, if you're Brunson and you're trying to hold him down, if then his main focus becomes just holding him down and burying his head in his chest, end up getting stood up.
Yeah.
Like, Holland's not going to Holland's not going to tie him up and wait. Holland will be slapping him and hitting him and attacking. And if it just gets to the stage where Brunson's just holding on for dear life because he doesn't know how else to deal with it, the referee will keep standing him up. And that every time gives Kevin Holland even more confidence for his kung fu.
And when they're back standing, Brunson lets himself get hit quite a lot. Like a lot of people land, he's not always knocking him out, but Kevin will knock him out if he lets one of those high kicks, head kicks come through. He's going to get, it's going to be a short night.
Yeah.
The only thing I say maybe in Derek's favour is he doesn't seem phased. I don't know whether he's been in there for quite a long time and he's been around. He doesn't seem too phased about whatever's in front of him. I don't think he's going to be like,
Yeah, maybe not. I mean, I think he's kind of reassured himself in his last few fights. So he's on a 3-fight win streak now, isn't he? And he came in as the underdog against Shabazian. And, Shabazian's a long-range, talented striker. But then, the Heinisch in the Theodoro fight saw the same characteristics, like he'll circle away and then he'll lunge in and attack.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the flow of Kevin Holland, and I think a lot of unpredictables come from that. And I just don't think Derek Brunson's going to like being on the end of his strikes regardless.
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't. I think it's Holland's to win, innit?
Yeah, I think
for
so.
sure.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, Derek Brunson might have improved again, because he is training with Henry Hooft, but it's only gonna the refinements in his game at this stage are going to be minimal. I don't like Henry Hooft's not going to give him a kickboxing skill set. Like Derek Brunson's always going to be a left-hand power striker that throws that left hand over and over again and then clinches and wrestles.
Yeah.
If he hits the floor, keep Kevin Holland tied up and crack him with those elbows, because that was the game changer in the Shabazian fight, was that left elbow that cut him under the eye.
Yeah, interesting puzzle.
Fight.
Holland is an interesting puzzle, isn't he?
He is, yeah, he is. And I mean, so let's play a little game then. As you said, like this, if it's not a consistent style for Kevin Holland, who's currently ranked at number 10, let's look at if you go up the fights above him, who does he lose to? Like Uriah Hall's up next.
I mean, yeah.
Like you could see him winning that one.
I can see him. Yeah, I can see him both. I can see him getting caught by Uriah's horrible power, but
yeah,
I can see him winning.
I could see him just kind of overwhelming him and crowding Uriah, because Uriah likes time and space to set up his techniques, and he's a crisp striker, whereas Holland's a flow state striker, and the crisp strikers sometimes get overwhelmed by the flow state striker. Dan Ige, Calvin Kattar, for example. Gastelum, I think, is an interesting fight for him, given the fact that Gastelum's just lost by heel hook recently, and the fact that Kevin Holland is long and awkward, and like Gastelum does well against guys.
Don't you make me pick against Gastelum. I
would never.
Don't you make me pick against him.
Gastelum Haqparast.
Yeah.
Do you see the photos of them together? Oh man, they're like little clones.
Wow, that's some serious domage between those two, isn't there?
Like Derek Brunson's next. Then above him, you've got Jack Hermansson, Marvin Vittori, Darren Till, Cannonier, Costa, Whitaker, and then Adesanya
Costa's
at the
pulled
top.
out again.
Of course he has.
Too much Sauvignon Blanc.
It
was red wine, wasn't it?
Give himself a hangover.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. I can see him definitely competing with Hermansson, Vittori, Till, Cannonier.
It gets interesting when it gets up to Costa, Whitaker, and Adesanya.
I see what you're saying.
But then you go like I don't think Paulo Costa's ever going to beat Adesanya. I think he would struggle generally against Rob Whittaker, but then again I think Kevin Holland might struggle with Paulo Costa a little bit. He might get walked down and just kind of overwhelmed a bit. I don't know whether Kevin Holland's striking's precise enough maybe to turn the corner at the very top with Whittaker and Adesanya.
Yeah. It's certainly, with the unorthodox nature and unpredictability, it does create space to be punished, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And those guys at the top will punish you. But as you go through that, man, he's a top five. He's a top five dude, probably, isn't he?
I think so.
He should be able to compete with those guys. I think
so.
He's a rough night for Hermansson and Vettori, and maybe even Darren.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, argue, Daniel.
That's what I do.
You make a good case.
That's what I do. So which way you go? Holland.
Yeah. I'd stick with Holland. I can't really see it any other way. If it is another way, it's a very boring way. I would think, but yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Wicked.
All good.
All good. Nice one.
Well, first one.
Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the fights. We'll see you next time.
Lovely.